Welcome to TYT. I'm your host, Anna Kasparian, and it's been a hectic day. It's been a crazy day. I was producing up until like literally the last possible minute so I can get you guys the important stories of the day. I can't wait to get to this Argentina bailout story, which has led to this big conflict between the Trump administration and Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren. That'll be later on in the hour, but I don't want to waste any time. I'm not going to give you any teases, okay? Find some other lady who's going to tease you. I'm going to get right to the news. Let's get to our first story. Israel's finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, is renewing calls, and this should be unsurprising to anyone who's been paying attention, renewing calls to build illegal Jewish settlements in the Gaza Strip, which seems to fly in the face of a peace deal that the Trump administration alleges that they're making progress on pursuing. Now, he argues, Bezalel Smotrich does, that it should be the next phase after all the hostages are returned. Now, to just give you an update on where we are currently standing on the hostage release situation, Hamas has released all living hostages, and they have released the remains of 8 deceased hostages, although there is some reporting indicating that one of the hostages who was deceased and whose remains were released, that individual's remains do not actually match up with the hostage that Hamas claims the remains belong to. So there are issues when it comes to the deceased hostages for a number of different reasons, including the fact that just like the Palestinian victims in the Gaza Strip, some of the Israeli hostages tragically are believed to be trapped under the rubble. So Israel can help with that situation by allowing heavy machinery into the enclave. It remains to be seen whether or not they are willing to do that. But let's move forward to what Bezalel Smotrich has to say, because he claims that after all the living hostages were returned, well, after they were all returned, this is what he said. He said, with the emotional return of all our living hostages, I say again, just as I said here a year ago, there will be no Hamas in Gaza. There will be no threat from Gaza toward Israeli civilians for decades to come. So far, so good, by the way. So far, I've got no problem with that statement. That seems like a totally normal statement, especially coming from an unhinged lunatic like Bezalel Smotrich. But he goes on and says, and yes, this too must be said, there will be Jewish settlement in Gaza. Now, he took it a step further, if you can believe it, by making the unhinged argument that building illegal settlements on stolen Palestinian land should be done in order to make Israelis safer. Okay, let's just hear him out. Maybe he's making a sound argument here. Without settlement, there can be no lasting security. First, because it is part of the land of Israel, is it? And second, because only a Jewish presence guarantees that we won't return to a situation where rockets are fired on Sderot and the south. When you steal land, and when you build settlements on said stolen land, well, obviously that makes the individuals who are now living in said stolen land targets. So I fail to see how this would make Israelis safer. But I also have no doubt that this is what Bezalel Smotrich and this unhinged far-right Israeli government intends to do. I haven't believed for a second that there was any sincere statement, any sincere movement or progress from the Israeli government toward an actual peace deal. Because a peace deal would require the Israelis to end their expansionist project. And they haven't ended their expansionist project. They have continued annexing the West Bank. They have been salivating over the notion that they could resettle the Gaza Strip once again, steal land from the Palestinians once again. And even though the majority of genocide scholars have referred to what has gone down in Gaza as a genocide, they have called it a genocide. If you don't like that word, that's fine. It makes you a little uneasy, you think it's too harsh, that's fine. But it is now widely accepted that the project the Israeli government has unleashed is all about the Greater Israel Project. It's all about ethnically cleansing Palestinians from land that belongs to them. When the Likud's founding charter indicates the pursuit of the Greater Israel Project, why don't we believe them? Why is it that only Hamas's original charter matters here? So this isn't the first time Smotrich signaled that the Israelis have no intention to end the bloodshed in Gaza. He is one of the most vocal genocidal maniacs in the Israeli government. And for anyone who tries to make you think, oh, he's just like a marginal figure, like, oh, who cares? No, he's not a marginal figure. Okay, not only is he Israel's finance minister, Benjamin Netanyahu knows that he needs Smotrich's support and Ben-Gvir's support in order to keep this government's coalition together so he can remain in power. So the Smotriches and the Ben-Gvirs of the Israeli government, the extremists in the Israeli government, actually have a lot more leverage and a lot more power than the Israel supporters would like you to believe. So earlier, he said that there is a tremendous responsibility to ensure that this is not, God forbid, a deal of hostages in exchange for stopping the war, as Hamas thinks and boasts. Immediately after the hostages return home, the state of Israel will continue to strive with all its might for the true eradication of Hamas and the genuine disarmament of Gaza. Of Gaza, not of Hamas. The disarmament of Gaza so that it no longer poses a threat to Israel. No. So the Palestinians won't have the ability, the capability, or the capacity to defend themselves as they're living alongside a regime that attempted to basically wipe them off the face of the earth and ethnically cleanse them. You don't have a military, you don't have a country. Let's just keep it 100, especially when you're living next to a country that didn't believe in your right to exist, doesn't believe in your right to self-determination. It's one thing to argue, hey, we want to disarm Hamas. Okay, I'm willing to hear out that argument for sure, but what does that mean? How do you determine what Hamas's arsenal is? How do you determine whether Hamas has been fully disarmed? These granular details are super important in order to get people to sign on and to execute a real peace deal, a real peace agreement. I get that Trump wants to be viewed as the peacemaker, but we live in the real world. You don't just like snap your fingers and say, I declare peace. It's like Michael Scott declaring bankruptcy. You don't just say it out loud and it happens. You actually have to work on the granular details of the deal. And that hasn't been dealt with at all. And it does not inspire much confidence when you hear from high-ranking Israeli government officials saying, as soon as we get all of the hostages back, including the remains of the deceased hostages, we're going back in, baby. We're going back in. More examples of that. Israel Katz, of course, had basically said, yeah, once we get the hostages, we're gonna go back in. Let's go to graphic 11 here. This was reported by the Times of Israel. Israel to shift focus on raising Gaza tunnels, Katz says. And that piece was a reference to the Israeli defense minister, Israel Katz, announcing that following the release of all the hostages and the remains of the deceased hostages, the IDF will be ordered to go back into the Gaza Strip to destroy the terror tunnels. The major challenge for Israel after the phase of returning the hostages will be the destruction of all of Hamas's terror tunnels in Gaza. What were you doing in Gaza for 2 years? Oh yeah, that's right. You were just leveling the entire place. 93% of residential buildings gone. They wanted to make it uninhabitable. So Palestinians will want to leave the Gaza Strip. They'll want to abandon the land that is rightfully theirs. So Bezalel Smotrich and the other extremists like him can finally get their dying wish that they will be able to resettle the Gaza Strip, steal that land, and then possibly and likely think about the next country they're gonna invade and annex. That's what the expansionist project known as the Greater Israel Project really is. And so for all the people out there who were talking about how, Where are the Palestinian supporters? Why are they so quiet? Why aren't they celebrating the peace deal? It's because there isn't a peace deal. For now, there's been a slowdown in the unbelievable brutality and aerial bombardments that the IDF has carried out in the Gaza Strip. People are still getting killed, but not to the same extent as earlier. But is there really an end to what's been happening in Gaza? No, there is no peace deal yet. You have two parties that agreed to the first phase of a ceasefire. But again, all those other details remain murky. They have not been dealt with, they have not been negotiated. And so when there's an actual end to this bloodshed, when we can actually look to the future and not have to worry about the Israelis just incessantly attempting to steal land from the Palestinians, then I'll celebrate. But we're not there, we're not even close. That's the reality. All right, let's move on. I want to do one more story here before we go to break. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what we're hearing from the Israeli hostages who have been freed. Look, it's one of the incredibly positive things that have happened this week. Seeing the videos of Israeli hostages released and reunited with their family members has been a wonderful thing to see. Okay, I can't imagine what those family members went through. So, with that in mind, I want to go to this next story where we're going to hear a little more from one of the hostages, or a family member from one of the hostages that was released recently.
When you block humanitarian aid in the Gaza Strip for 3 months straight, it not only impacts the Palestinians, which I know you couldn't care less about, but it also obviously is going to impact the hostages. They're going to starve to death as well.
You're saying Israel is starving the hostages?
I'm saying, yes, yeah. When you block humanitarian aid for 3 months, where do you think they're going to get the food from?
Max, Israel.
What a joke.
Well, it turns out that Israel blocking humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip negatively impacted the Israeli hostages. How do I know that? Well, we're now hearing from the father of one of the hostages who was released earlier this week. And guess what he had to say? Blocking humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip made it real difficult for my son to survive. Turns out it was difficult to feed him when food wasn't entering the enclave for nearly 3 months straight. Let's go to those statements. So Yehuda Cohen is the father of the Israeli hostage Nimrod Cohen, who was released this week, on Monday to be exact. Now, he was captured while serving in the IDF's armored cops and was released from Hamas captivity on Monday of this week. His father, Yehuda, spoke to Haaretz and said the following. His son told him that after humanitarian aid was blocked from the Gaza Strip in March, there was less food. Scott Jennings finds that outrageous. Are you arguing that the Israelis starved the Israeli hostages? Yeah, I am saying that. And apparently so is the father of one of the hostages who was released earlier this week. That's not outrageous, that's just common sense. It's literally common sense. So beginning in March of this year, for nearly 3 months straight, Israel blocked all humanitarian aid from entering the Gaza Strip. That's why you have a famine. That's why you see those images of the children literally starving to death. The children that the Free Press wants you to pretend don't exist, or the children who, according to the Free Press, died for other comorbidities, not because of the fact that they were skin and bones moments before they passed away. I know, like random jab at Free Press, but honestly, that reporting was so unbelievably disgusting. I mean, the most hideous piece of propaganda I've seen in a while, but nonetheless, that's what the father says here. Nimrod's father, his son told him that after humanitarian aid was blocked from the Gaza Strip in March, there was less food. Now, last February, this is a really interesting wrinkle in the story. So last February, a month before Israel had imposed that block of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip, Nimrod's family actually did receive some communication from him as he was held captive in Gaza. Now, the way that this all worked was, this was in the middle of a different ceasefire and hostage exchange. And so one of the other hostages had been released, but before that individual was released, Nimrod spoke to him and told him to give his family a message. And the message was, remember, this is February, 1 month before the March blockade of humanitarian aid. He tells his family, "I'm okay, don't worry, love you." Now look, was he actually okay? Was he really okay? I mean, he was being held captive by Hamas in an enclave, in a territory that was being brutally bombed, aerial bombardments, the likes of which we haven't seen on our television screen. Well, we haven't really been seeing it on our television screens. We saw it on our computer screens, that's for sure. And so, do I think Nimrod Cohen was doing well? No, I don't think he was doing well. But remember that blockade of humanitarian aid hadn't been implemented yet. So Israel took a terrible situation for the Israeli hostages and compounded it by blocking humanitarian aid from entering the Gaza Strip. After October 7th happened, and after Hamas did what they did in rounding up all sorts of people, but mostly Israelis, and held them captive as hostages in the Gaza Strip, I don't want you to forget about the statements that came from high-ranking government officials, including Yoav Gallant, who at the time was the head of Israel's military. Because he said out loud that we shouldn't be negotiating with Hamas to get the hostages back. We should annihilate. We should go in, the number one goal, the number one thing we should be pursuing is the complete annihilation of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. So from the beginning, there was an understanding among high-ranking government officials within the Israeli government that the hostages were not the priority. That's why you had the Hannibal Directive. The Hannibal Directive, which also Yoav Gallant confessed, was a reality, a real policy implemented by the Israeli government. And what was that? Basically, if you see Hamas trying to take a hostage, it would be better to kill the Israeli than to allow Hamas to have that leverage over Israel. So the IDF literally killed their own people on October 7th as Hamas was attempting to take hostages. Now, I want to be clear, I am in no way providing cover for the disgusting atrocities that Hamas carried out on October 7th, especially as it pertains to innocent civilians. And that's one of the areas in which I get a lot of criticism and a lot of heat from, people who defend the Palestinians. And that's fine, they can be mad at me, but what Hamas did was wrong, and I have no problem saying that. But how about a little bit of heat for the Hannibal Directive that was implemented by the Israelis? You're not gonna protect your own people. You're not gonna do anything and everything necessary to save your people. And once they are taken captive, you're not gonna wanna negotiate because the top priority is to annihilate in the Gaza Strip. Fascinating stuff. It's really, really gross. Now, getting back to Nimrod Cohen and his father, Yehuda. Yehuda also focused his ire on Benjamin Netanyahu, which I think is definitely justified. He told Haaretz that the war has not ended on the national level. We have to make sure that those responsible for the incident, primarily the prime minister, step aside. It took hours for the IDF to respond to the attacks on October 7th. And because of the fact that immediately Benjamin Netanyahu went into Gaza and has been at war ever since, there hasn't really been a moment for the country of Israel to deal with the fact that their government failed them and allowed for this brutal attack to happen, given the endless military funding and support they get from the United States, despite all of the sophisticated intel they get from Mossad, despite the various pieces of intelligence that the Israeli government received a year before October 7th happened and then 3 weeks before October 7th happened. Why did they choose to ignore that intelligence? And I think it's time for the Israeli government to be confronted about that by the Israeli people. Because you can hate Hamas all you want, and I don't begrudge anyone for feeling that way. But why is it that your government failed to keep you safe? Focus on that. And if they fail to keep you safe, why is the United States taxpayer going into debt in order to hand over their resources to your country? Just want to know. When we come back from the break, we'll talk a little bit about what Senator Lindsey Graham is saying about the next stage for Gaza. It's not pretty. Neocons be neoconning, that's for sure. We've got that and more coming up. Don't miss it. What's up, everyone? Welcome to our social break. Stinky Feet writes in our super chat section and says, Anna, the faces you make on Piers Morgan when Shabos Kestenbaum is talking will definitely be turned into internet memes for, I don't care what you're saying, but would you please stop talking? I think it's hilarious that they keep booking me alongside Shabos Kestenbaum, who I think is a PragerU, propagandist for Israel. But I think I did a good job not yelling at him for the first time on, I think it was Monday that I was on, I don't know. Anyway, everyone check out that interview, see what you think about it. In Liberty and Guns We Trust says, it's no coincidence that Bezalel Smotrich and Beelzebub, a name for Satan in the Bible, are similar sounding. By the way, Beelzebub, it sounds, I know that that's how Satan is referred to in the Bible. It just sounds funny. And I feel like when it comes to the devil, you gotta find something that goes hard, right? Something that really makes the devil sound like the devil he is. But anyway, I get your point. They're one and the same in terms of evil. Whenever I hear his name, I think of the devil. No, Bezalel Smotrich is one of the most disgusting people I have had the displeasure of learning about. His complete lack of valuing human life, if it's not an Israeli, is just disgusting. It really is. And look, I don't want anyone like that in our government, although I'm sure there are people like that in our government. They're just not as entitled and vocal. But it would be nice if we at least had some government officials who gave a damn about us. I don't want them to go around killing for us. But I would like to see government officials, members of Congress, an executive branch that actually cares about the well-being of the American people. And I don't know if I've seen that in my lifetime, to be honest. And that's really depressing. Anyway, let's go to our members section. Jack Callahan says, what a pretty sweater, Anna. Thank you, I love this color. And it's gotten cold in LA, so I figured I would bust my sweaters out and dress warm. Over 9,000, enter the dragon says, time for fire and salt. Anna is tending today's barbecue and looking good doing it, thank you. Barbecue. Dawn Data Dragon says, oh, they'll allow the heavy machinery. They'll just be operated by settlers. Oh, it's so depressing. I think you're probably right. Rebel Dragon says, so the IDF killed their own hostages by bombing the crap out of everything in Gaza, but Hamas isn't fast enough to recover the remains of the hostages that Israel murdered. Do I have that right? You do have that right. And by the way, please read the ceasefire agreement that both parties signed, because there is a bullet point that specifies that Hamas is going to have a tough time. It's going to take them longer to find the remains of the deceased hostages, and that there might need to be an international body helping them do it. Israel knows, but they're pretending like Hamas broke the ceasefire so they can go in and continue annihilating. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. Anna Kasparian with you. And thank you to everyone who's writing in our members section. Thank you for your super chats. Write in. I want to get your feedback on the stories that we're covering today. I'm going to read one member comment from Michael Napin who says, is Scott Jennings going to call up Anna and admit she was right? Doubtful. Doubtful. But you can ask him. Let's see what he has to say. For now, though, why don't we move on to our next story?
There's a bloodletting going on as I speak. The people in Gaza who sided with Israel are being slaughtered by Hamas. Israel cannot afford, Sean, to sit on the sidelines and watch people who stood up to help them be slaughtered by Hamas. As I speak tonight, there are discussions in Israel about potentially going back in to save those tribes and clans that had the guts to stand up against Hamas. They went in Syria. They'll go back into Gaza if they have to.
I love that he referenced Syria there. Anyway, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham is already clamoring for the genocide in Gaza to continue. I mean, who could be surprised about that? Now, in an interview with Sean Hannity, he said that Israel was considering going back into Gaza in order to stop Hamas from targeting individuals and gangs who collaborated with Israel. And to be sure, Graham actually isn't wrong that Hamas is already making abundantly clear that they intend to go after the groups that they view as their enemies, including groups who teamed up with Israel to weaken them. And by the way, there is evidence that Israel bankrolled some of these groups, and we're gonna get to that in just a minute. But soon after the fragile ceasefire went into effect, a video came out featuring Hamas fighters executing 8 men in the streets. Now, I know about this because Israel supporters can't stop sending it to me as if it proves something. Like, oh look, Hamas bad, so all these Palestinians need to be slaughtered or displaced. It's not the argument you think you're making, but anyway. So those horrific public executions weren't the end of it. So the Palestinian militant group has killed at least 33 people since the ceasefire began last week, and that's according to Reuters. And yesterday, President Donald Trump referenced these killings and pretty blatantly gave Hamas a pass. Yeah, he gave them a pass, believe it or not. Take a look.
You know, they did take out a couple of gangs that were very bad, very, very bad gangs, and they did take them out, and they killed a number of gang members. And that didn't bother me much, to be honest with you. That's okay. It's a couple of very bad gangs. You know, it's no different than other countries.
Let's cue up that video again. Yeah, I wanna do a little bit of repetition. Cue it up. But again, I'm speaking directly to the Israel supporters who keep sending me that Hamas executing people video over and over again because they think they're making a point. Listen to your daddy. Go ahead, listen to your daddy.
You know, they did take out a couple of gangs that were very bad, very, very bad gangs, and they did take them out, and they killed a number of gang members. And that didn't bother me much, to be honest with you. That's okay. It's a couple of very bad gangs. You know, it's no different than other countries.
Now, Hamas says most of the people they killed were members of a gang affiliated with a family in Gaza City, likely referring to the, bear with me here, Dagmush family, which is a powerful clan based in Al-Sabra, who Hamas has violently clashed with in recent days. Now, Hamas accused members of this clan of collaborating with Israel following the killing of 2 Hamas fighters, including the son of a senior Hamas leader. So the Dagmush family denies those accusations entirely and even accuses and actually says that they've turned down multiple offers from Israel to essentially collaborate and work with them. So maybe that's not the group that Lindsey Graham is specifically referring to when he talked about Gazans who Israel needs to protect. By the way, can we just stop? Let's pause and acknowledge how laughable it is that Lindsey Graham is talking about the need for Israel to protect Palestinians. They've killed close to like what, 68,000 people that we know of so far. 10,000 Palestinians are missing, presumed to be dead, trapped under the rubble. Israel has no interest in protecting anyone except themselves and anyone who believes in their expansionist project. They don't even believe in protecting Jewish individuals who are critical of the greater Israel project, who are critical of what's going down in Gaza, what's going down in the West Bank. That's why this has nothing to do with Jewish people at all. This has everything to do with a foreign government wanting to build an empire. And anyone who stands in the way must be destroyed, whether it's reputationally or by taking their lives. It's so sick. So again, maybe the Dogmoosh family isn't the clan that Lindsey Graham is talking about here. So let's talk about the people he likely was referring to. So in June, an opposition leader in the Israeli government by the name of Avigdor Lieberman accused Netanyahu of arming a Gaza gang with affiliations to jihadi terror groups. And that sounds like an outrageous allegation, doesn't it? Until you remember, Benjamin Netanyahu is the guy who facilitated the funding of Hamas. He's the guy who propped Hamas up. So would you really be surprised if Netanyahu was funding other terror groups? I wouldn't be. So in response, Bibi put out a video admitting to it and chastising his opponent for revealing this information.
שבצד גורמי הביטחון אנחנו הפעלנו חמולות בעזה שמתנגדות לחמאס. מה רע בזה? זה רק טוב, רק מציל חיים של חיילי צה"ל. והפרסום של זה עושה טוב רק לחמאס. אבל לליברמן לא אכפת.
This man is the scum of the earth and should be in prison for the rest of his life. So there he is admitting, yeah, I'm funding the clans. That's right. The same clans that are now being cited as justification to continue annihilating the Palestinian people by people like Senator Lindsey Graham. It's just outrageous, it's insane. So there are actually a few militias throughout Gaza that have allegedly operated side by side with Israel over the course of this genocide. And the anti-Hamas gang that Israel provides the most material to is called the Popular Forces. So it's led by a man by the name of Yasser Abu Shabab. And his gang, which is mostly made up of Bedouins, operates sort of like a paramilitary in an area of the Strip under Israeli control. And they have their own base in southern Gaza, where food is plentiful and the 1,500 or so people living there are actually safe from Israeli bombardment. The base's location is strategically important. It sits along the route by which aid trucks must travel when entering Gaza through the Kerem Shalom crossing, a route that aid officials have named Looter's Alley. That's important to keep in mind. And indeed, an internal UN report dated November 2024 identified Yasser Abu Shabab and his gang as the most influential stakeholders behind the systematic and massive looting of convoys. So Netanyahu funds groups, terrorist groups, who oppose Hamas inside the Gaza Strip. And these are the same people who were looting the humanitarian aid as Netanyahu was blaming Hamas for doing so. Even though reporting, including reporting in the New York Times, claimed that there was absolutely no evidence that Hamas was systematically stealing or looting the humanitarian aid. Isn't that outrageous? I mean, you should be outraged if you actually care about fairness, if you care about facts, if you care about reality. What I love about the moment that we're living in, though, is that previously Netanyahu and the Israeli government would get away with this. But we have unlimited independent media now that we can turn to in lieu of the corporate media that omits information, twists the truth, and intentionally lies to the American people. So luckily we're able to know, by the way, this is reported by Sky News. Like the last few graphics I read to you, that was reporting from Sky News. Super Zionist, huge supporters of Israel. But sometimes the facts are so important. It's so obvious, in my opinion, that you can't help but just report it. So they're believed to have been responsible for a violent looting incident last November, by the way. I'm talking about popular forces, which are funded and propped up by Israel. They're believed to have been responsible for a violent looting incident last November when 98 out of 109 trucks carrying UN food aid from the Kerem Shalom, area were ransacked by armed men. So the looters allegedly shot at the trucks and detained a driver for hours. The UN said the attack caused injuries to transporters and extensive vehicle damage. Okay, and yet aid organizations say that Israel denied most of their requests for better measures to safeguard convoys and failed to intervene when looting was actively taking place. Well, Israel was actually backing the militant terror group that was engaging in the looting. So why would they provide protection against it when they are literally backing it and funding the group doing it? Even worse, Israel eventually used Abu Shabab's men to help protect Gaza Humanitarian Aid Foundation or Gaza Humanitarian Foundation aid sites, where at least 859 Palestinians were killed between May 27th of this year and July 31st of this year. Popular Forces said it had secured the surroundings of GHF centers in Rafah, but was not involved in distribution of food. But instead of securing the sites, the gang members reportedly shot at Palestinians who were seeking aid. And instead of going to civilians, much of that aid was funneled directly to the gang. And remember, as this is all going down, as a gang that was propped up by the Israeli government was looting the aid, stealing the food, the Israeli government was blaming Hamas for it. Back in August, we interviewed Aziz Rahman, an American doctor who went to work at a hospital in Gaza. He also gave an interview to Theo Von in which he confirmed that the gang did in fact take the aid. Here's a little reminder.
We were in the hospital looking outside and there's like, you just hear this AK-47. And I asked the locals, I was like, I thought you can't have a gun in Gaza. And they're like, you can't. And I was like, so how is that guy shooting a gun openly in the air, trying to get everyone away from the aid? And they're like, they're IDF associated gangs. Abu Shabab is this main gang leader. He works with the IDF. And so his gang basically gets first dibs on the aid coming in. So he and his gang steal the aid and then they go to the market and sell it at super high prices.
And honestly, believe it or not, an extensive, in-depth expose written by Sky News. It was a Sky News investigation that was published earlier this month, uncovered even more about the incredible amount of support Israel has been providing this gang, the Popular Forces. So in interviews, one of Abu Shabab's senior commanders, as well as an IDF soldier serving on the Gaza border, detailed how Israel is allowing them to smuggle cash, guns, cars, cigarettes, and more into the Gaza Strip. In order for these supplies to enter Gaza, requests must be made to a coordination office run by the Palestinian Authority, which then liaises with Israel and various Arab states to ensure the supplies entry into Gaza. The office is basically a communications room with Egyptian security, with Israeli national security, with Jordanian national security. Hassan Abu Shabab, a Popular Forces commander, says, adding that his mechanism, or this mechanism, was created specifically for the use by the Popular Forces. Again, the very gang propped up and funded by Israel. Or let me rephrase that. Indirectly funded by the American taxpayer. Because remember, much of the military activity carried out by the Israelis is financially backed by America. Oh, you had your Medicaid benefits cut? It's okay, because that money that could have helped you is going to a better cause, funding terror gangs in Gaza to fight Hamas and brutalize the Palestinian people. And that very gang is now being referenced by the likes of Senator Lindsey Graham for why we need to continue a genocide in Gaza, why we need to continue bankrolling atrocities in the Gaza Strip. You see how this works? They think you're stupid, but you're not. I know you're not. It's just that there have been gatekeepers of information for far too long, and now we're starting to see things very clearly here. The injustice makes me sick. One more statement from Abu Shabab. It provides us with weapons and money and with everything our people and forces need. Now, Israel has allegedly supplied the group with Kalashnikov assault rifles, including some weapons seized directly from Hamas. Interesting, I thought Israel wanted to demilitarize and disarm the people living in the Gaza Strip. And food, Hassan says, is provided free of charge by a number of donors, including the GHF, and is delivered to their camp by merchants. An active IDF soldier even confirmed Hassan's claims while speaking to Sky News, saying that Israel helps Yasser Abu Shabab. It gives him grenades, it gives him money, it gives him vehicles, it gives him food, it gives him all types of things. The cooperation with Abu Shabab mainly goes through Israel's security service, Shin Bet, or some other state mechanism. We just bring in the food, make sure it arrives in Gaza. Now, they've even coordinated militarily. Sky News found evidence suggesting coordination between the gang and the Israeli Air Force in at least 2 battles fought by the popular forces. So why would Israel support them? Right? That's the big question here. Well, Israel's backing of groups like Abu Shabab's is intended to undermine Hamas, obviously, and to ensure that Israel maintains a level of control in Gaza. So Amjad Iraqi, a senior analyst at the International Crisis Group, says that Israel's use of the popular forces against Hamas mirrors the way in which it previously supported Hamas against its secular rival Fatah. The idea is that the more you can remove the hegemony of any particular faction, the more difficult you make it for society to resist the occupation. That's what's really going on here. That's why Israel props up people, or these people specifically, and now it's given Lindsey Graham the perfect opportunity to use them, to cite them as the excuse for continuing the military campaign in Gaza. And while Donald Trump seemed to give Hamas a pass for public executions, he also, after getting plaudits from the Israelis, of course, he also threatened to go back into Gaza if they refused to disarm.
How long will it take Hamas to disarm, and can you guarantee that is going to happen?
Well, they're going to disarm, and because they said they were going to disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them.
How will you do that?
I don't have to explain that to you. But if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. They know I'm not playing games. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently.
Are you going to disarm Abu Shabab's gang, which is getting its grenades and its Kalashnikov rifles from Israel? This whole thing is super sick. But you're armed with the knowledge to push back against these narratives. And I want to thank our producer, Kate Bettino, for putting this incredible segment together. This is the type of reporting that matters the most. Don't get fooled into making our country poorer to aid and abet ethnic cleansing and genocide carried out by the Israeli government. It's that simple. We'll be right back. homeboy Navinix writes in our members section. Navinix is awesome, sends me photos of flowers time to time that I always appreciate. Smotrich has the sociopathic energy of Stephen Miller, but turned up to 11. I can't argue with that, that's for sure. Wang Jun says, there is nothing wrong with them saying they want to get rid of Hamas until you realize that Hamas is the nail to Israel's hammer. As far as they're concerned, every Palestinian is potentially a member of Hamas. You're right about that. I mean, certainly every adult male, they just automatically claim is Hamas. It's pretty gross. As far as they're concerned, every Palestinian is potentially a member of Hamas, and that's all the excuse they'll need to continue the violence. And by the way, guys, I mean, I've made this point before, I'm gonna make it again, and it really saddens me that people get offended by this point because it's literally true. How do you think people get radicalized? Like, look, I believe in good versus evil for sure, and I do think that just genuine, inherently evil people exist, but I think they're rare. I think groups, militant groups like Hamas, spring out of situations of desperation. They want to fight back. Their people keep getting brutalized. Their family members have been slaughtered. I think about how much I love my family. I love my family so much. Like, I mean, you guys see it with me and Cenk, right? Cenk isn't even blood related to me. But when you're in, meaning my loyalty is pretty intense. And so the idea that someone like me wouldn't get radicalized if everyone I love has been killed is laughable. Of course I'd be radicalized. Just put it in your own context. So a group like Hamas doesn't spring out of nowhere. It is a response to the brutality that has been carried out against the Palestinian people for many decades now. And it's been 2 years of annihilation in Gaza. Hamas hasn't gone away. Why do you think that is? That's why it's so laughable that Smotrich thinks like, yeah, we got to build the settlements in Gaza to keep the Israelis safe. Good luck with that. Eclectic Miscellanea says, I know TYT doesn't do Ice Cream Wednesday anymore, but after getting a tooth pulled at the dentist a couple of hours ago, ouch, it's going to be Ice Cream Wednesday for me. I remember when I had my wisdom teeth pulled out. Believe it or not, it was a pleasurable experience because they put me to sleep and it was nice. But I hear you. I like had pizza right afterwards. Like I actually did not have any complications from getting my wisdom teeth pulled out. A wise old man says Israel also funded and armed gangs in Lebanon during the Sabra massacre, which the UN also called a genocide. I want to read up about that, but thank you for that tip. All right, we got to get back to the show. I'll see you there. If you want to know what a robotic, empty suit politician acts like and how they malfunction once they're asked a question they don't expect, get a load of California Governor Gavin Newsom.
I will not vote for a candidate that takes $1 from AIPAC.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I haven't thought about AIPAC, and it's interesting. You're like the first to bring up AIPAC in years.
Is it interesting? Okay, that was California Governor Gavin Newsom malfunctioning as he was being asked a question that he didn't expect and didn't really seem prepared to answer. Now, Newsom malfunctioned and said the word interesting a total of 8 times after he was confronted on the topic of AIPAC and the Israel lobby. Just to give you a little bit of background, Democratic voters have really soured on the issue of Israel. Okay, they are not supportive of what Israel has been carrying out in Gaza, in the West Bank, and much of the Middle East, to be quite frank, and have now been paying closer attention to whether the politicians they've been favorable toward are being funded by the Israel lobby. And so Democratic lawmakers, state and local leaders, you're now on notice. If you're taking AIPAC money, you're gonna be asked about it. and try to do better than what we're about to hear from Gavin Newsom.
I will not vote for a candidate that takes $1 from AIPAC.
It's interesting. I mean, it's interesting. I haven't thought about AIPAC, and it's interesting. You're like the first to bring up AIPAC in years, which is interesting. Why did I say that? Not relevant to my day-to-day life.
Okay.
Which is just interesting.
Listen,
it's interesting you say that. JPAC perhaps more, but AIPAC less and less.
Okay, fair enough.
Which is just interesting.
What's interesting about it?
That it's just interesting as you bring up AIPAC that it hasn't been part of. I'm just reflecting quite openly and honestly.
Okay, I love this so much for so many different reasons. So obviously Newsom sounds idiotic, but for those who don't know, the podcast that he's appearing on is the Higher Learning Podcast, which is hosted by Van Lathan and Rachel Lindsay. And for whatever reason, my eyes were fixated on Lindsay because her face was so funny as he kept saying interesting. She was just like, you could just see she's like, oh, this is not going well for Gavin Newsom. By the way, the conversation with Gavin Newsom, I listened to the whole thing. I want to commend them for asking tough questions because that wasn't the only tough question they asked him. And that's how it's done. I love it. All right, now Representative Ro Khanna was unimpressed with Newsom's comments, writing that this is not interesting. It is defining for the future of our party. We must be for human rights, not take PAC and lobbyist money, including AIPAC, and call out the genocide to win the trust of young voters and have America be a moral leader in the world again. Agree, Van Lathan? Now, a few minutes earlier, Lathan had asked Newsom if he was in favor of halting all military assistance to Israel, and let's see how that went.
Are you in favor of halting military assistance to Israel?
Well, I mean, the timing's a curious one. When the precipice of a phase 1 deal that was announced today and a ceasefire.
Oh, even if this is over,
but I get it.
Yeah.
So look, no, I'm not prepared to say that I would support a blanket exemption for military support of Israel. That said, I've been very vocal in my opposition to Bibi Netanyahu. Said he doubled down on stupid on Meet the Press like a year ago. I'm sitting here on your behalf, you're a taxpayer, as the only governor in the United States that sent a field hospital to Gaza and got it in through a third-party country and is disgusted by what's happened in Gaza as a human being, as a father, to see these children and how this war has been perpetuated by Bibi Netanyahu. I also have deep respect for the right of the state of Israel to exist and defend itself.
Okay, he seems defensive, if you ask me. And look, Lathan did follow up with a pretty good point. So if Newsom hates Netanyahu so much, then why would he want to, why wouldn't he want to stop sending Netanyahu money, military aid? Let's see how he answered that.
I guess the question is, if there's an admission or an understanding that the prime minister of a country is acting in a way that's either irresponsible, callous, or inhumane, why would we continue to support that country militarily?
I think that's the executive's role to leverage that. We do that a lot. I mean, that's part of the game of leverage. But to eliminate support across the board is something, to me, is a bridge too far. Conditioning in a thoughtful way with a flexibility of a criteria, flexibility with conditions that are changing on an hourly or daily basis or weekly basis as it relates to not just what's happening in Gaza, but what's happening in Lebanon, what's happening in Iran, what's happening in Syria and other parts of the Middle East is where I think you have to be careful. And I just don't think there's a clean way of answering that without the nuance that I think it deserves.
Well, there you have the governor of California competing with Kamala Harris in the word salad Olympics. What was that? What was that? Let me just list off a bunch of other Middle Eastern countries and talk about leverage and then do the little weird shoulder shimmy. You are not guided by values or principles. It is very obvious Newsom destroyed the state of California and yet feels entitled to the highest office of this land He's gonna run for president in 2028. I get that I am deeply, deeply biased against him as a victim of his leadership here in the state of California. But let me just give him a tip. I don't know if he's even capable of doing this, but let me just give him a tip. Be authentic for once in your life. You're afraid of Israel or you support Israel, but either one, doesn't matter, has led you to supporting Israel and backing it economically, financially, even though we're talking about a country that had an economic surplus in 2021 when we haven't had one since 2001. Now look, as governor of California, his views on Israel don't matter that much, but his views on Israel matter a lot if he is the head of this entire country, if he's the president of the United States. And I will not vote for any politician that takes any money from the Israel lobby. I never thought I would be a single issue voter, but that's my single issue at this point. Because I see our alliance with Israel as an existential threat to the United States. I said it. Take a good hard look at where we were standing economically in the year 2000. Did we have debt in 2000? No. But our debt blew up after 2001, after the 9/11 attacks on our country. That spurred endless wars that we fight allegedly for our own national security, but it turns out, no, not for our own national security. A lot of those wars, including the war in Iraq, our boots on the ground in Libya, our engagement in the proxy war in Syria, where we literally indirectly armed Al-Qaeda terrorists, and now there's an Al-Qaeda terrorist leading the country of Syria as a result. That was all done on behalf of Israel. We paid for that. We're in debt. At least $37 trillion. Who knows what the number is now, considering the big beautiful bill added another $4 trillion in debt for that. We're bailing out Argentina. We're providing more military aid to Ukraine. We're just bleeding money, bleeding. I guess that's America first. So the real question is, does Newsom represent a paradigm shift or not? And I would venture to say that he doesn't. He's super defensive, doesn't give you straight answers. He's pathetic. I can't stand him. Now, we have very little publicly available information about whether or not Newsom takes money from pro-Israel organizations, and that's because he has run in and won in state and local elections. So it's harder to track that money, unfortunately. But we did find an article from 2008 in which Newsom went to an all expenses paid trip to Israel, and we all know what those trips are about. It's all about propaganda on behalf of Israel to get these politicians to support Israel and also to spy on our politicians, as we've learned recently. Newsom was the mayor of San Francisco at the time. The goal of the trip is to create connections between Bay Area and Israeli business leaders. No, thank you. I don't think we need that. Nonetheless, a Newsom spokesperson said this. Many executives, including Richard Bloom, husband of US Senator Dianne Feinstein, are going. That is the least surprising thing I've read in my entire life. He will not visit the Palestinian territories during his stay, the mayor's spokesperson said, also unsurprising. And this month, Newsom signed AB 715 into law in the state of California, which is intended to stop anti-Semitism in schools. So it is unbelievable. So it was supported by AIPAC, among many other leading Jewish organizations. Much of the requirements in the law, which takes effect on January 1st, are open to interpretation. Teachers must be factually accurate in lessons and adhere to unspecified standards of professional responsibility while avoiding advocacy, personal opinion, bias, or partisanship. Just want to remind you all that our textbooks were published by a Mossad agent for many decades, Robert Maxwell. He's luckily dead now. But Macmillan, McGraw-Hill, those were the social studies and history books, textbooks that I grew up on. And I had no idea that there was a Mossad agent publishing them. That's not an issue though. The issue is we need to stop anti-Semitism by hindering the speech of students who might want to be critical of the genocidal campaign that Israel has been engaging in. Got it, okay. It also creates an Office of Civil Rights within a state agency, meaning taxpayers are gonna fund this garbage, which will include an anti-Semitism prevention coordinator to consult with school districts and advise lawmakers on preventing anti-Semitism in schools. Newsom has acknowledged that the bill will likely require follow-up legislation since the language is so vague. We have a housing crisis in the state. We have more homeless people in California than all the other states combined. This is what they're spending their time on. The state legislature, along with the leadership, political leadership in California, is beyond embarrassing. Their state is in shambles. I would know, I live here. And you have Newsom and the rest of the Democratic state legislature fiddling around with policies to make Israel happy. It's gross. Anyway, I'm massively out of time. I have no discipline, you know that? No discipline at all. I wanted to do one more story before we bring Cenk in. I'm gonna do it, let's go, let's go.
Donald Trump ran for office proclaiming he would do America first. Instead, he is sending 20 billion American taxpayer dollars to bail out his buddy in Argentina, and he's doing this after Argentina has just cozied up to China.
She has no idea what she's doing. She's a nasty, horrible senator. Go ahead. Other than that, I like her very much.
President Donald Trump is at war with Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren over the administration's decision to, in my opinion, betray the America First movement and bail out the foreign country of Argentina. Now, I know that there are some conservatives who watch this program, and I thank them for keeping an open mind. And I am so curious to hear from you and get your thoughts on this particular story. Because if I'm missing something, I wanna know. And if you agree with my take, I also wanna know. So with that in mind, let's get to the details. Now, before we get to their fiery exchange, here's the background. Argentina is in a lot of economic trouble. There's no question about that. And the Trump administration believes that if they're not saved economically, the policy of deep austerity, okay, meaning cuts to social programs coupled with, free market capitalism, will fall out of favor. And in fact, it's already fallen out of favor among people in Argentina because the austerity has negatively impacted them. So in more recent elections, Javier Milei's party lost a lot of support. Now, Javier Milei is concerned about more political consequences if something isn't done soon. And so this is where the US government under Donald Trump steps in. So the US government authorized an extraordinary $20 billion currency swap this month, essentially a loan to prop up the sagging Argentine peso, which has fallen more than 24% against the dollar this year. In other words, the US government is bailing out Argentina. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that the administration was marshaling an additional $20 billion from banks and sovereign wealth funds to help Argentina make its foreign debt payments. So that's a $40 billion bailout. That's crazy. And is not in any way beneficial to the American people who bought into the America First narrative that Trump was running on in 2024 and 2016, by the way. So today, again, it was announced that the Trump administration was gonna double the bailout amount to Argentina, so it's gonna be $40 billion. Obviously, this isn't America First, although Bessent wants you to think it absolutely is.
Is this not America First? I'll tell you why it's not. Do you want to be shooting at more gunboats like in Venezuela? We do not want a failed state.
So this isn't a bailout?
Sorry, it's not a bailout at all. There's no money being transferred. The ESF has never lost money. It's not going to lose money here. I was in the investment business, mostly currencies, for 40 years. You're supposed to buy low, sell high, and the Argentine peso is undervalued. We're going to have an election in Argentina the 26th of this month. We think President Milei will do quite well. Argentina is rich in rare earths and rich in uranium, and I think they are committed to U.S. private companies coming in and being good partners with them.
U.S. private companies. Let's do a little favor for Argentina. And maybe in return, we can look out for corporate interests in the United States, which tend to conflict with the best interests of rank and file Republican voters and ordinary Americans. Cool. So speaking of American private companies, funds at investment firms including BlackRock, Fidelity, and PIMCO are heavily invested in Argentina, as are investors such as Stanley Druckenmiller and Robert Citrone, both of whom worked with Besant when he was an investor for George Soros. Wow, okay. So this is really about doing favors for corporate America. And the same members of corporate America that Scott Bessent himself worked for. That's totally America first, right? Now, the Duquesne, I don't know if I'm saying that right, family office, which Druckenmiller runs, was the second largest investor in Argentina's principal exchange traded fund, a pool of Argentine stocks. Citrone, the founder of Discovery Capital Management, has made Latin America his biggest bet in the world, and Argentina is the fund's biggest investment in the region. And here's some more context on this bailout, because Argentina's currency, bonds, and stocks have all been sliding following Javier Milei's party losing an important election in Buenos Aires last month. So since then, Milei has been doing everything in his power to keep Argentina's currency, the peso, from getting devalued. Now, if that happened, inflation would spike and Milei would be at risk of losing power during the midterm elections, which are set to take place later this month on October 26th. But the United States wants Milei to win enough seats in the legislature to keep his agenda moving. And we should note that his leadership has led to some silver linings. There have been some upsides. I want to be fair in Argentina. So Argentina posted its first budget surpluses since 2009, and inflation is down to around 30% from peaks almost 10 times higher. So there's that. But explain to me why Americans are supposed to bail out this foreign country again, and how it's supposed to benefit ordinary Americans, because I don't really see it. Okay, so as part of this currency swap with Argentina, the US purchased Argentinian pesos in the open market, and that makes the fourth time that the United States has bought another country's currency in that manner since 1996. So that's how you basically prop up the value of the currency. You get the United States to purchase the currency on the open market. But here's the real kicker. Even as the bailout was being finalized, Argentina suspended its tax on exports, encouraging China to buy massive amounts of soybeans from Argentine farmers. Orders that American farmers say should have gone to them. And that is where Senator Elizabeth Warren comes in. Trump is not happy about what she had to say in the next video you're about to watch.
Donald Trump ran for office proclaiming he would do America first. Instead, he is sending 20 billion American taxpayer dollars to bail out his buddy in Argentina, and he's doing this after Argentina has just cozied up to China and cut a deal with China that takes the legs out from underneath American soybean farmers. So let me get this straight. Argentina hurts American farmers, and the President of the United States responds by giving $20 billion to Argentina, plus Secretary Bessent saying, and a blank check if they need more. That's pretty appalling.
It sure is. It is pretty appalling. It's absolutely disgusting. It really is. Because again, this is about benefiting corporate America, corporations and corporate executives that members of this administration rub elbows with. That's the fact of the matter here. But Trump, really hates being called out, especially when he's being called out on reneging on his promises to his own base. And so here's the message he had for Senator Warren today.
We've been criticized by a couple of American Peronists like Senator Warren. She and
It's a compliment.
Yeah.
She has no idea what she's doing. She's a nasty, horrible senator. Go ahead. Other than that, I like her very much.
She doesn't know what she's doing. She's a nasty senator. Other than that, I like her very much. It seems like you both know what you're doing. Trump knows whose bread he's buttering, okay, who he's actually helping out by bailing out a foreign country. And Senator Warren knows exactly what he's doing and has decided to call him out on it. It's very easy to understand. Now, Trump is considering a $10 billion bailout for American farmers in America's high debt environment, by the way. We're spending $1 trillion a year on servicing our debt. Now, I'm not saying that our farmers should be abandoned. I feel terrible for them. But how do you justify bailing out a country that just made a deal with China that squeezes American soybean farmers out of the equation entirely? How do you justify that? Finally, US farmers are not buying Trump's explanations. Here's one of them.
China is beginning to buy soybeans from Argentina, and the president bailed them out with $20 billion. And we see it as that could have been a whole lot of relief for America's farmers. For the first time in a very long time, I was not able to secure a farm operating loan myself this year due to the bankers telling me that the cost per acre just wasn't working. As the young people said, the math wasn't math in here. And I was out here, so I'm basically farming from vendors, so to speak. So it's a very troubling time in America's history for America's farmers. And as we lose farm, there's the vice president who's out here buying land through his company, Acre Trader. All of these are happening while America's farmers are going under.
America's farmers are going under, but at the end of the day, they're Americans. Who cares about them when you can be bailing out foreign countries, funding a genocide in the Middle East, bomb and strike random boats in international waters, in gearing up for a war with Venezuela? All of that stuff matters way more than you do. That's the message that's being sent from the Trump administration through policies like this. And the thing that drives me nuts is they think we're too stupid to see what's really going on. We're not. We see it. It's as clear as day. After we come back from the break, Cenk Uygur joins us for a whole host of other stories. Don't miss it. We'll be right back.
What contributions to the progressive cause are you most proud of? I mean, I don't have super high aspirations for a singular role that I can play in the movement or anything. I try to present myself as what I think that I am, which is a progressive man who is driven by I think, well-interrogated and well-organized system of values that I try to stay consistent on, and I demonstrate that that's the sort of life that a person can lead and be successful and be happy and all of that. And that should not need to be done, but there are so many people on the right that are trying to push men in the opposite direction that I want to be able to do that. Along the way, if I can get people to care about some topics that they wouldn't necessarily care about, or that for some men they might think that's not a topic that they should be focused on, that's definitely something that I relish doing. And along the way, I mean, we've been able to introduce people to a lot of candidates. That's been a big part of what we've done. Not all of them necessarily got in office. Probably most of them did not. And a lot of them you might not even remember their names. But it was great to be able to provide people the platform where they had the chance of, making a difference. Obviously AOC and all that, but there's been a lot of great people along the way.
In the bonus episode for the members, we do some inside baseball. We're gonna look at John's desk. Nice little spaceship here. Nerd. But it is kind of look cool. Who has Legos? Oh no. He's taken apart a keyboard. Who has a mouse pad that's this big? He's got a dog with a nose that you can hang something on. You know what this desk screams to me? Nerd. And that's how we like him. We love Johnny Pie. He's got his own personality like everybody does at TYT. Come meet us all in the bonus episodes. TYT.com/team.
David Sorrell, Anita Turner. Adam Green drop by.
Charlemagne.
Congressman, great to have you. It's great to be with you, Chang.
Your show is a great thing. You're informing people. A lot of the shows that I live on, my CNN, my MSNBC, and even Fox, and any of the other shows, NPR, they are so quick to decide that they know what this building means today.
The one thing that I hate that politicians do, they talk about the people they should be talking to.
Do they have any idea that they're the establishment and that they're hated, or do they not realize that at all?
People are so deeply in their little universe. I think it's very easy to not really question what you're doing.
Voters have a right to ask questions of any nominee, whether they're independent, Republican, or Democrat.
The system is duopoly that suppresses competition.
How is it the year 2024 and we're still like, maybe they'll talk about paid medical? Like, how is that like at one level it's like, good, what we're talking about it now. You're like, it's 2024.
And that's always been the critique, that your critique of us is, well, you guys give good speeches, you put out good tweets, but you're not wielding actual power. Now we're starting to.
My favorite news platform by far. It's not even close.
It's about a country and a principle, and that's what you and I both work to achieve, and I'm so glad that at least half the battle has now been won.
If you want to go really hear what's going on honestly, you should tune into the Young Turks.
Thanks for doing such a great job. Please keep it up. Hang tough.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy.
Oh, I like making you happy.
I didn't know about that.
This is a happy Anna Kasparian. You're welcome, YouTube.
Join the Dragon Squad by becoming a YouTube channel member. Click the join button below or sign up on tyt.com/join to get access to fun emojis, a member-only chat, exclusive shop TYT designs, ad-free watching, and so many other amazing perks. Plus, you get bragging rights for being part of the coolest community on the internet and help us drive real, positive change in the world. The Dragon Squad awaits, so join today.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. More news.
All right, I wanted to talk a little bit about a pretty explosive piece that came out from Politico, and okay, let me get to the details. So, Politico has published a bombshell report on what appear to be highly offensive messages the GOP leaders in the Young Republican National Federation had been sending each other in a private group chat. Now, they were under the impression that these are encrypted messages, it's not gonna come out. It came out. So someone leaked them to the press. And for those who don't know, the Young Republican National Federation is an organization for conservatives between the ages of 15 and 40. Happy to know that 40-year-olds are still considered young. And it has about 15,000 members. Okay, so Politico reports that the group's Telegram group had about a dozen people in it. So this is really about like 12 people, okay? And so I don't want people to think that everyone in the Young Republican National Federation co-signs onto this type of rhetoric or uses this kind of rhetoric. But Politico reports that the group's Telegram group did have these messages within it. Here are some of the messages that were sent over the course of 7 months. Epithets like, you guys can look at the graphic and figure that out for yourselves because obviously I can't say those words, appeared more than 251 times combined. We're talking about the N word, the R word, that kind of stuff, the slur for gay individuals. William Hendricks, the Kansas Young Republicans vice chair, used variations of the N word more than a dozen times. And it didn't stop there. Bobby Walker, the vice chair of the New York State Young Republicans at the time, referred to rape as epic. Not good. I'm gonna pause for comment.
Yeah, so I heard that the Democrats do vitriolic language that leads to violence. What is this? And so the reality is that, yeah, there's been a coarsening of language. And look, there's two different things. One is strong words about political stories, etc. The other is insults like this. So did insults like this get much more common over the last 10 years? Of course they did. Was it because the super boring, dullest people in the world, Democratic politicians, drove that? No. Come on, guys, get real, get real. So have there been people on the left that have used terrible language that has led to more division? Yes. But are there people on the right now, especially among the young, that use awful language while they think that they're, I hope that they think that they're joking? Of course they do, of course they do. I mean, if you were saying no, right-wingers don't do it, well, they just did it right there, you just see it, right? And so, and is that symbolic and representative of more people? It's not representative of all Republicans, it's not representative of all Trump voters, and it's not even representative of all young Republicans, as Anna said. Okay, but is it representative of some? Yeah, of course it is, right? Are we denying that this is a thing that people do behind the scenes? And there's two different worlds. There's a world where young people think joking about the most awful things is totally fine, right? And then there's the power world, right? The politicians, the media, etc., right? And they say it's not fine at all, or that it's the worst thing in the world, and you should be fired for the rest of eternity for doing it. So these worlds keep clashing. So I guess these guys are going to get fired forever and ever.
Well, some of them have. They've been forced to resign. They've lost their positions. They lost job offers. So I'll get to that in just a minute. I guess, look, there are definitely like offensive statements that were referenced in this Politico piece, and I'm not minimizing it at all. What I do wonder about, though, and it's a bigger question, it's a broader question, and it's not related to party politics at all. It's more about our identity as Americans. And my fear is that this experiment has either already failed or is just gonna fail because think about what America is. America is a country where people from all over the world came together to be Americans, right?
Yep.
But what does it mean to be an American if we're all so obsessed with what makes us different and we don't have a shared identity as citizens of this country?
So that's definitely true, and that's why I don't like us attacking each other nonstop, left, right, Republicans, Democrats. We're against that. We're gonna get to JD Vance trying to minimize this. He's got an issue because if it was just against black folks and gay folks, etc., then you could minimize all day long. But it also is anti-Semitic stuff, so that's gonna create a giant clash within the Republican Party because everything acceptable except things that are anti-Semitic, and in this case, they really are anti-Semitic. So then that creates a dynamic. But overall, one other thing that along the lines of what you're talking about, Anna, is that yeah, but if you're the Republican Party, you have to be way more upset about this. And so why? It's easy for a black person to be super pissed about it, or a Jewish person, or a gay person, etc. But look, that means there was no black, gay, Jewish, or woman, by the way, they made a lot of rape jokes, etc., in this group. So what does that say about your party? That the young Republicans are literally, in that particular chat group, all white males. And they feel super comfortable making fun of every other group. So look, a lot of right wingers are against cancel culture, or they think they're against cancel culture, right? And so, but on the other hand, you've canceled all other groups from your, very small tent there. Like Trump, to his credit, was trying to expand the tent, although he also uses vitriolic language. But at least he was trying to bring Latinos in, some black voters in, etc. These guys seem like they're actively pushing them out. We don't want you. Well, then it leads to the main question Anna's asking. What does it mean to be an American? Do you think that it just means being white, Christian, male, whatever? Or do you think that it means something bigger than that? An idea where we could all come here and be equal and be treated with justice, and we all have freedom. And so that's the question we have to answer as a country.
Yeah, and I do like that you made a distinction, because there is a difference between, like, the way Cenk and I'm gonna speak for myself, like the way that I communicate behind the scenes when I'm blowing off steam. Yeah, I use strong rhetoric. I don't ever feel the need to use the N-word or anything like that. Like, it's never about a person's identity. It's mostly about like the policy or the issue. And since there are no censors in private conversations, I curse and I use stronger language. So there's a difference between that and then targeting certain groups of people based on their identity, which is terrible, right? And so there are lots of examples of that. So Bobby Walker, the vice chair of the New York, as I mentioned, New York State Young Republicans at the time referred to rape as epic. How? Okay, obviously that's disgusting. Peter Giunta, who at the time was chair of the same organization, wrote in a message sent in June that everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber.
Lots of jokes about gas chambers and Hitler.
When Luke Mosaman, the chair of the Arizona Young Republicans, asked if the New Yorkers in the chat were watching an NBA playoff game, that same guy, Peter Giunta, I don't know how to say that last name, I apologize. Then chair of the New York State Young Republicans responded, I'd go to the zoo if I wanted to watch monkey play ball.
See, that you see a comment like that and no one thinks, oh, don't say that, bro. That's not cool, right?
Yeah.
So the entire chat is okay with it. Apparently, look, I'm not on a cancel culture mission here. I mean, I wouldn't want these guys in politics, etc. But I'm not trying to get everybody on the chat fired. My point isn't that. My point is they're saying the most awful things, and seems like literally no one objects ever. I mean, come on, that's so over the top, and that's not really a joke. I mean, I know he thinks it's a joke, but no, you're saying something about black people. You would never say that about white people. Come on, you know what you're doing.
I didn't correct you earlier because I wasn't entirely sure, but now I am because I'm reading this comment. There was a woman in the group. So Breonna Douglas, Vermont Young Republicans National Committee member, said in the chat group, I was about to say you're giving nationals too much credit and expecting the Jew to be honest.
Okay, well, there you go. There's your one woman. Wow.
Yeah. And then members of the group chat joked repeatedly about Hitler. Okay, so you guys get the picture. I don't want to go through every message, it makes me uncomfortable. So I do want to talk about what you had referenced earlier, Cenk, which was JD Vance's response to all of this, because he essentially immediately deflected to what Democrats have done, right? So he didn't condemn the group chat. He pivoted to a different scandal in an attempt to kind of deflect from all of this. By the way, look, as VP, you're not in this group, you're not in this chat group. Like, it's okay to say, look, there were 12 people involved. What they said was disgusting and wrong. I condemn it, and just move on.
I have a theory as to why he's doing it.
Okay, so anyway, in 2022, he referenced this scandal, okay? So this dates back to 2022. Jay Jones, a Democrat who's running for Virginia Attorney General, wrote a series of pretty heinous text messages about then Virginia House Speaker Todd Gilbert. I didn't even know about this, but it's pretty gross. So Jones stated that if he was in a room with Gilbert, Adolf Hitler, and Pol Pot, and he had a gun with 2 bullets, spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time.
Yeah. So where did he write that again?
This was text message. Yeah, it was a text message.
Yeah. So look, I'm going to say something else too. It applies to both of them. I'm not picking sides here. I am, as much as both comments are heinous, etc. I am deeply uncomfortable with taking people's private messages and making them public. I've had that stance for a million years.
You have, that's true.
Right? And then when I have that stance, people go, oh, so you agree with them. No, I don't agree with them. I don't know if people can understand English, right? I definitely don't agree with them. But now we're like, okay, so that guy joked about killing his opponent to a friend or something, and he's obviously joking. And if he said it publicly, I'd be like, are you nuts, right? And so should he joke like that with his friend in private? No. Should we be hearing his private jokes? No. No, we shouldn't be hearing anybody's private jokes, okay? So that applies to both the young Republicans and the Democrat from Virginia. I wish we didn't hear any of it. On the other hand, I mean, so one guy's joking around in a disgusting way about killing his political opponent, but it's obviously a joke. The other guys also think they're joking, right? But they're saying, no, we think black people eat watermelon. That's another thing that they kept referring to, and are monkeys, and Jews never tell the truth, and etc. And gas chambers. So, do I want them winning political office? No, I do not, because they would be in charge of all of us and not just some of us. So, anyways, this is all things keep devolving.
Yeah.
And I feel like people are happy about it. Some folks in power are happy when we're at each other's throats.
Of course.
Devolving.
That's why I want to get past that, but it's hard to get past it because stuff like this gets leaked, and stuff like this is deeply offensive to a lot of people in this country. And I want to go back to what you said about JD Vance. Why do you think he was immediately deflecting?
Yeah, because he's going to run for president, and in his mind, he thinks he needs this base, right? So anyone who wants to defend these guys for what they actually said, not because, hey, you shouldn't take their private messages or whatever, right? He's thinking, I got to lock up that vote, right? So, but there's an extra element of it that's really important. He can't lock up that vote by giving them anything substantive. So he can't say, hey, you know what? You guys were America first and you were anti-war, but if I'm president and if I'm vice president, I'm gonna let Israel start every war.
Call the shots.
Right, we're gonna go invade Venezuela for no reason, right? And drug prices are gonna remain sky high, wages are gonna remain very low. I can't give you anything that matters because my donors own me. So what I'll give you instead is attaboy on the racism and the anti-Semitism and the sexism. Attaboy. That way I'll win your vote over on culture war stuff where I drive hatred and division without actually pissing off any of my donors who are super happy about the tax cuts, the wars, and everything else.
Our elections run on identity politics. That's not a bad theory. But anyway, that's the story. There was a Vermont state senator involved in this group chat. He's been urged to step down from his position. We'll see if that happens. Others had job offers rescinded as a result of their participation in this group. So just a note of caution. You should never assume anything you put in writing is going to remain private, ever. Especially in a group chat. It doesn't matter if it's on Telegram. It doesn't matter what platform is hosting your group chat. Someone's gonna leak it. Okay?
Someone else in the chat's gonna leak it.
Exactly.
So look, last thing. All of this stuff is vicious and terrible, the actual words and phrases and sentences that were used. So I'm not minimizing it 1%. I just want you guys to have one perspective that you might not have. Muslims get this publicly 24/7.
Yes, from Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah, and so if you're freshly outraged by this, you should be, right? But then welcome to our world where people say, oh, you Muslim dirty pigs should all be murdered and your children's lives are worthless. And they say it publicly all the time, and congressmen say it. Giant political and media figures say it, and there's never any, and no one cares. So my heart goes out to you anyway, because I know how it feels, right? But wouldn't it be amazing if any of these groups one day said, oh my God, are you seeing that it's happening to Muslims? And nobody's hiding it? Politico's not writing any big piece about, oh my God, anti-Muslim hatred. No, it's everywhere. Millions and millions of comments just like this, over the top, even worse, you should all be slaughtered, and they mean it, and they're not even joking. But hey, if you're a Muslim American, you just have to deal with it. That's life.
Yep. All right, when we come back, we'll talk about a disastrous statement that President Donald Trump made about assassinations. We'll be right back.
All right, let's go to Twitch first. NDH 101 says, corporate greed always wins while the neediest people are treated like trash in this corpse of a country. So look, the country is not the issue. The money in politics is the issue. It is corrupted and pretty much come close to ending our democracy. So none of our politicians represent us. They're the very worst people in the country. And the only people that rival them are people in national media whose job is to lie to you 24/7 and cover up the crimes of the powerful so you don't find out. But yes, corporate greed is absolutely destroying this country, and corporate media loves it. They love every part of it, and they're the cheerleaders and the marketers for it. Queenie 93236 says it's always American business first, never America first. That's why I've started using this term, just started a couple of days ago, Americans first, okay? Not America first, but Americans first. Not corporations, not foreign governments, not anyone else, but actual Americans. And by the way, it's not even American businesses. They're multinational corporations that have just bribed our politicians. They have nothing to do with America at all, at all. International shareholders, international executives, international everything, and their money is still green, and all of our disgustingly corrupt politicians bathe in it. Stefan 12 says it's okay, Anna. Vance said that boys will be boys. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to leave that.
We don't have a country if we don't see our fellow Americans as human beings based on their racial identity, gender, whatever, religion. Again, this is much bigger than one person or 12 people being racist or sexist. It just goes way beyond that. And I don't know how you bring people together to a point where they have that shared identity as Americans, but we're so far away from that. And I worry about that because it is being exploited by foreign enemies, okay? And it's tearing us apart. It's also being exploited by our political class and the elite. So anyway.
Yeah, look up, that's where your problems are. The best ever writes in YouTube member section, get these establishment Dems out of office.
Yes.
You can't do it fast enough. In Super Chat, Konstantin Gaviris writes, Anna, it's the same forewarned and backwards. Is that why you're so morally consistent? Even if you tried to be a backwards version of yourself, you'd still be Anna. Okay, so so good point. And Johnny Diamond says, Anna, this is slightly off topic, but every time I see you and Jen going on right-leaning shows, I am so proud of TYT's representation. The TYT team is awesome, and you are attracting attention from such a broad field. God bless, love you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Really appreciate it, brother. Let's go to our members on TYT.com. Eclectic writes in, Anna going rogue. Cenk has super lasting. Anna has super lasting entire segment.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Don't be mad at me. He came in a little bit salty, and I know I deserved it. I'm sorry.
All right, we're moving forward. Moonshine Dragon writes in, they want a race war, so there won't be a class war. That's a powerful statement. That's a super powerful statement. And both sides love that. Oh yeah, it's all about race. It's all about race. They're all racist. They're all black and brown, and you should hate them for that, right? And both sides feed off of that. The Republicans, Democrats, I can't stand it. Why don't we, like Anna said, try it. Let's try being one country. We'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Also, America Forever. I mean, that's a perfect handle to join TYT. Appreciate you. And Lisa M, thank you guys. They hit the join button below. It makes a big, big difference. So I appreciate everybody who does it. Anna.
All right, we got to talk about Trump's statement here.
I made a turn at a good time. I turned to the right. And Charlie couldn't believe it, actually. He said, how the hell did you make that turn? I said, I don't know.
As President Donald Trump honored the late Charlie Kirk with a posthumous Medal of Honor, this happened yesterday, he decided to take a moment to reflect on his own survival from an assassination attempt. In reality, it sounded more like he was bragging about the fact that he survived his assassination attempt while Charlie Kirk didn't. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but you judge for yourselves.
We've watched legions of far-left radicals resort to desperate acts of violence and terror because they know that their ideas and arguments are persuading no one. They know that they're failing. They have the devil's ideology, and they're failing, and they know it. They feel it, and they become violent. They seem to become very violent on the left. They've rammed vehicles into federal law enforcement, fired sniper rifles at ICE agents, and me, you know. But I made a turn at a good time. I turned to the right. And Charlie couldn't believe it, actually. He said, "How the hell did you make that turn?" I said, "I don't know."
It was luck. You didn't accomplish something. It was literally luck. It was luck. Like the way he's boasting about it as if he like accomplished something, it was luck. And it is unfortunate beyond words that Charlie Kirk didn't have the same luck as President Donald Trump.
He just can't help himself. I mean, he just thinks he wants credit for everything. Okay, look, the attempted assassination of Donald Trump was terrible. It wouldn't have helped anything. It was just morally heinous, etc. And I'm glad he turned his head so he didn't die. But yeah, it was random. And why are you bringing it up here? Okay.
I would not do a comparison. You're giving him a medal of, posthumously giving him a Medal of Honor. By the way, it was on Charlie Kirk's 32nd birthday.
Yeah. So look, yeah, I know. But I know that some on the right will look at that and go, guys, it's no big deal. He's just saying he's lucky that he didn't get hit. I don't particularly, like that part doesn't bother me as much as the other things he said. So you know how they say, oh, it's the Democrats' rhetoric, it's the left-wing rhetoric that's driving the violence. Well, how about when he just called it not only the radical left, okay, you could make this radical right, radical left, that's okay, all right? But he said they have the devil's ideology. How does that rhetoric that doesn't drive more, anger, hatred, division, and potentially violence? So I'm not saying shut him down. I'm not saying shut down anyone on the left or the right. But let's note for the record that I don't see any Democrats going, the Republicans are working with Satan and you should do something about it. Come on, guys, it's too much.
I'm so glad this came up because I'm gonna issue an apology. In the past, I mean, it's been a few years, but in the past, I definitely would cite rhetoric from right-wing pundits, commentators, whatever, and blame them for something terrible a vicious and violent person carried out. And no, I was wrong. And the reason why I was wrong is because I don't think it's right to hinder the speech or suppress the speech of anybody because some unhinged person decided to carry out an act of violence.
I don't know if you saw it, Anna, but I did the same thing on Piers Morgan. So when we were discussing Charlie Kirk after he'd been assassinated, I said, they kept saying, would they demand an apology? Apology for what? I was the only left-wing guy invited to Charlie's conference. Apology for what, right? Dave Rubin was trying some sort of stupid, dumbass trick.
I did see that.
As he always does. And I said, no, I only have one apology. I don't apologize for any disagreements I had with Charlie Kirk. I also don't apologize for any agreements I had with Charlie Kirk, okay? So what I do apologize for is, I did the same thing as you, that like, hey, Tucker Carlson said this and the Fox News said that, and that's driving people to take violent action, and they should be careful with their words. No, everybody's responsible for their own actions.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless you're literally inciting violence, right?
Yeah, unless you're saying, hey, there's Bob, go get Bob, right? Or by the way, please try not to say, hey, there's X people, go get them, like a group of people either, right? So it's not a good thing to say. So Trump here, when calling the left, saying that the left has the devil's ideology, is not helpful language. At the same time, I wouldn't shut him down. And don't so he thinks that. But the one thing that is very fair to ask is, don't then come at me and say, only the Democrats or only the left uses bad language about the other side. Come on, guys.
Exactly.
I mean, we got eyes and ears. Trump's been doing this for 10 straight years.
When we come back from the break, we bring you Gooner President.
Yeah, so this is a really good point too. Wang Jun writes in TYT.com member section, if you make fun of the death of Charlie Kirk, JD Vance will take away your visa and kick you out of the country. But if you make fun of the death of 6 million Jews in a group chat, oh, that's just boys being boys, blah, blah, free speech and stuff.
Oh my God, that's a devastating point actually, yeah.
Yeah, and he ends with, if you're gonna be outraged, at least be consistent in your outrage. So we should have made that point.
Yeah.
Anytime we think of that, $100 Blue Apron gift card, rewards at TYT.com. As usual, excellent point, brother, okay.
Wang, can you write in and let us know, is it Wang Jun or Wang John? Like
Yeah, just however you say it, yep. Don't shoot on the goalkeeper says, not surprised at all that young Republicans are racist and homophobic. Most of these people grew up or were radicalized in the age of Trump and his open bigotry. He gave them permission to voice their worst opinions. So look, where does the joking end and where does it become serious? Like the basketball comment to me was like, nah, not really a joke. And a lot of these are not really jokes, right? And so were people given quote unquote permission to, at the very minimum, to make those kind of jokes? Yes, they were, right? And so we got to reel it back in. We got to reel it back in, but at the same time, not shut down speech. These are tough lines to draw, because the minute you shut down speech because you didn't like the racist stuff that they said, Republicans are going to jump all over it and shut down all speech that they don't like, especially with Trump, Vance, etc. Right? So Scuffed Meta writes in on Twitch, dude, the politicians these days are just so unappealing. They all act like the public can't see them dancing around all these questions. Maybe it worked with the boomers, but the people who grew up with the internet can easily see the fake ass act like that they all perpetuate. I couldn't agree more. So in the old days, the reason it worked is because, I'm sorry for being a broken record, but because mainstream media are liars who wanted to help the corrupt politicians, so they would never challenge them on it. Gavin Newsom, Cory Booker, et cetera, all of them have never gotten a question about AIPAC in their entire lives. Even though all of the reporters know that they take tons of money from AIPAC, they never question them because they're in on it. They're in on the game. And it's not just about AIPAC, they also don't ask about PG&E and why didn't he bury the telephone lines? It causes wildfires, but they, oh, shush, don't ever talk about the donors. Why don't they say to all the corrupt politicians that could start endless wars, hey, don't you take money from defense contractors? Are we supposed to think that the millions of dollars that you took from Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, et cetera, didn't affect your votes? How come the national media never asked that question? Never, ever, ever. Because they're not doing news, they're not reporters. They're all fake reporters, fake anchors, fake editors, fake producers. Their job is to lie to you and get you to believe that corruption is awesome. Don't talk about the money. Don't talk about the money, okay? No. These politicians are amazing. They just all happen to love Israel and love wars and love gigantic drug prices. It's all a lie. It's all a sham, okay? And yes, now because of the internet, we can all see. I've been trying to get people to see for 20 straight years. I love this awakening. I love it so much. And I love that the national media is being embarrassed for the ridiculous hacks that they are. Oh, I think Lindsey Graham had a debate and he's ideologically for war. On TYT, Cenk and Anna.
All right, this isn't much of a story. I just find it highly amusing because Trump really has no shame about who turns him on.
We have a young woman who's, I'm not allowed to say it because usually it's the end of your political career if you say it. She's a beautiful young woman. Now, if you use the word beautiful in the United States about a woman, that's the end of your political career, but I'll take my chances. Where is she? There she is. You don't mind being called beautiful, right? Because you are.
That was amazing. President Donald Trump commenting about Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's looks and how beautiful she is. And there's a lot more from where that came from. We're gonna get to that in just a minute. But Cenk, what do you think? I mean, look, I personally wouldn't be offended by that. But it's not really the best thing to say when you're referring to another foreign leader, right? Like you're talking about someone in a powerful position and you're immediately commenting on her physical features.
Well, if I'm Starmer, the British Prime Minister, I'm kind of offended.
Right.
How come you're not talking about how hot I am?
Well, because he's not hot, so.
Okay, look guys, it's not the end of the world. And if you make commentary about, hey, that politician is hot, although are there? Okay, whatever. I don't care at all, right? But if you're the president, it's a little embarrassing to a foreign leader to talk about that they're hot. And then what if there's other women on stage at different times and you don't mention they're hot?
Oof, that's a devastating point. Yes, that is a devastating point. By the way, that moment reminded me of something that got, at the time, President Obama in trouble. Do you remember this? This was in his first term.
Oh, I remember.
President Obama decided to make a comment about how attractive Kamala Harris is. She was a prosecutor in California at the time.
Yeah, he said she was the hottest attorney general in the country or something like that. Most attractive, he didn't say hottest.
Yeah, no,
something along those lines.
Yeah, and people were so angry at him for saying that.
Yeah, and the number one person who was most angry was Michelle Obama.
Oh yeah, good point.
But it's funny because everybody forgets about Melania. Like
yeah. Well, I mean, he slept with adult film actresses.
So this is like Melania's like, come on.
This is nothing.
She's like, please, this is Tuesday. Don't bother me with this minor stuff, okay? I remember when I was pregnant and he was feeling up a reporter in the other room, okay?
Oh, it's so bad. So bad. Okay, so Melania might be used to it because this isn't the first time Trump has weighed in on another female's physical appearance. Here's more.
As China deepens its presence in Latin America, what role do you see for the US?
I just like to watch you talk.
Sorry, no? Okay.
Good job.
Okay, thank you.
Good job. Thank you, darling.
Beautiful black women are wearing a MAGA hat last night on television. Beautiful people. And they said, we don't care who comes, just stop the crime. They don't care, frankly, they don't care if it's National Guard, military. Send in anybody you want, stop the crime.
How's Caroline doing? She doing good?
Do you want to elaborate on the
And those lips, they move like a machine gun.
Don't talk about her lips. Answer the reporter's question.
Yeah.
He didn't answer her question.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, I like to watch her talk. Okay, next.
Oh, you dirty little gooner.
Just at least answer the question, for God's sake. Anyways, look, Trump can't help but say whatever's top of mind. And a lot of times it winds up being way worse than this. This is just him being inappropriate. It's, again, we're all used to it. It's not the end of the world, right? It's also not a great thing. But remember the other day when he said, well, we're gonna end freedom of speech. Okay, wait a minute. Now I'm worried, right? Because I mean, and he has been going after anyone who criticizes him, anyone who makes a joke about him, anyone suing all the media companies, etc. And of course arresting any opponent of Israel if they're on a college campus, etc. Yep. So like I'm a lot less worried about these verbal slip-ups.
Oh, 100%.
Than I am about the big ones where he accidentally says what's top of his mind.
I'm just trying to have a little bit of fun, okay? We've got a heavy rundown, lots of serious, dark stories. I thought poking fun at Gooner Trump would be a little bit of fun.
Yeah, well, God bless.
Yeah. Anyway, let's end on this.
President Trump secures the release of the Israeli hostages, the end of the Gaza war, and for now at least, peace in the Middle East. It is the most significant international achievement of a presidential administration in decades. All of President Trump's critics have to eat crow. He did the impossible. And Trump's enemies are so angry about it, they shaved off his hair.
I don't know if I agree with everything Michael Knowles said in that statement you just watched, but I do agree with the last statement about Trump and his appearance on the cover of a magazine. So the cover in question is for Time magazine, and I'm not gonna lie, they did use possibly the most unflattering photo that they possibly could.
I don't know that they did that.
Okay. Jane, come on.
No, hold on.
His neck looks like a vagina.
Okay, all right, that's fair, but listen, let me go through a couple of things. First of all, is it an unflattering photo? Yeah, sure. Anytime you take a picture from down below, it's a disaster. I wouldn't want it, right? So I'm not disputing that. But do I think Time did it because they hate Donald Trump? Then why would they write about his triumph, right? So, and I think what they were actually trying to do is create a halo around his head. And the only way you could do that is if the light is coming up from above. So I think they were trying to do him a favor, but royally screwed it up and wound up having it be accidentally insulting.
So let me just say something about human psychology, okay?
Yeah.
Whenever friends of mine take photo, like we're out, we're drinking, we're having a good time, they take a group photo or a photo of me and then they post it on social media and I have determined it's an unflattering photo of myself, I automatically assume they hate me. They did it because they hate me.
Yeah.
So like, I don't blame anyone for thinking that, but I actually agree with you. I don't think if Time hated Trump, they wouldn't want to feature him at all on the cover. And so.
You know, Anna, I have a much bigger problem with the cover that no one's talking about. Okay, so they
the vagina neck?
No, not that.
You're okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, Cenk likes vagina necks.
No, I'm just saying the brother's old. It's okay, it happens. It's not his fault on that one. The overeating, on the other hand, but I live in a glass house, so God bless. So I don't care about his looks at all, not 1%. They say his triumph about the deal. Okay, look, I wish the Israelis would follow the deal. I like the deal if both sides followed it, right? So I get it, no problem there. They say the leader Israel needed.
Come on.
Why does Israel need our president to be their leader? And why is that an acceptable thing to put on the cover of Time magazine? Like we're all supposed to serve Israel. And bravo, Trump, you're the leader Israel needed. Not America needed, but Israel needed. So thank God you served Israel. What is that? So that's why like these guys are kissing his ass royally because they think he delivered for their beloved Israel. That's why I don't think they were trying to harm him with the picture.
No, you're exactly right. There is no way in hell they were trying to do Trump dirty with this cover. They just have bad taste because it is an unflattering photo. But the whole point of the cover and the piece they wrote about him was to celebrate him as someone who accomplished something miraculous, when in reality we all know there is no peace deal. And this ceasefire is super, super fragile and shaky. So, that's probably my biggest issue with the news that's come out this week. Like Piers Morgan, I get it. You are buddies with Trump. It's like he can't wait for any opportunity to kiss Trump's ass. And it's like, I get it, you guys are hitting each other up on the phone, you're buddies, you're friends.
On the show, that's why, that's access journalism.
It's so annoying. Just be real about where we are in this ceasefire, okay? Just be accurate about it. It's not a peace deal, it's a ceasefire. Ceasefire is super fragile. People are still getting killed, not to the same extent as earlier. But once they get the remains of all the deceased hostages, I'm worried that Israel is gonna go back in and continue annihilating.
Yeah, I mean, look at how desensitized we are. They used to kill like 90 people a day. They're down to like 9 people a day. And we're like, oh, aren't the Israelis so merciful? They're only murdering 9 civilians a day. And they cut half the aid. Oh, instead of starving them completely. How merciful are the Israelis? Oh, thank God we have a leader that serves Israel.
Okay, one final funny point about this story. I saw people on social media posting the picture of the cover and censoring his neck.
Gavin Newsom did it, to be fair to Gavin.
Don't give him credit.
No, I'm giving him credit.
Damn it.
Because we're the fairest show in America. Credit where credit is due.
Fine.
It was funny, it's funny.
It is funny.
Photoshopped the neck, so dirty.
You're rich, you could do something about it. I don't know why he doesn't.
No, that's crazy talk. Okay, just be yourself, it's okay. Although with Trump, being yourself is also an issue. But anyway, all right, crowdsourcing the revolution is neck. How's that for a Freudian slip? And the person who might defeat Nancy Pelosi. You want to talk about uniting the left and the right? Giant killer is going to be on at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So you'll see who that is. We'll be back. All right, back on Young Turks. Let's crowdsource a peaceful revolution. So look, I love this awakening that we're going through. And so now everybody's getting caught. Everybody's getting caught on AIPAC. Everybody's getting caught on all their donors, or it's begun at least. And what's going to happen eventually, guys, is the podcasters and the folks in online media are going to start to humiliate mainstream media. Because mainstream media never asks the politicians any tough questions. All they ever do is kiss their ass 24/7. So eventually it's going to get embarrassing. Then now when you look at like a cable news anchor, just to go, oh, Democrat, you're so great. Oh, Mr. Republican. They're going to get exposed, and I freaking love it. And so, by the way, of course, the politicians are going to get exposed too. That's what I mean by a revolution. So we got to get our country back, man. None of these politicians serve us. So. Now, two things we've been doing, this is day 5 or whatever it is of the revolution, I've lost track already, is that we're trying to work on things that unite the left and the right. And by the way, that's about at least 2/3 of the issues. So you think we're super divided, we all hate each other, we're about to go to civil war, etc. On which issues? 1/3 of the issues, yes. Almost all of them culture war issues. The other 2/3, almost all economic issues, we agree completely. Why don't you know that we all agree already? Because mainstream media lied to you and tried to divide you and tried to get you to hate one another. Because they are corporate media. They work for the corrupt corporations that are buying all of our corrupt politicians. So anyways, we're trying to find some good people and we're trying to push them in the right direction, even if they're not good people. So there's 2 things we're working on, trying to lower drug prices through this bill, HR 3493. So that's the idea of Democrats and Republicans calling it Connick here because Ro Connick originally came up with it, but there's more Republican sponsors than Democratic sponsors right now. Well, how come it's bipartisan? Because it's Trump's executive order and Connick took it verbatim and turned it into a bill. It's HR 3493, Global Fairness and Drug Prices Act. And what it does is it says we should pay the same prices other developed nations. There's no, the drug companies still make a ton of profit at that price. So why are we all purposely overpaying? Oh, right, because our politicians are dogs who work for big pharma, totally and utterly corrupt. So this could expose it because, hey, are you for Trump's executive order or aren't you if you're a Republican? If you're a Democrat, this is a policy you've been in favor of your whole life, or you claim to, you pretended to if you're a Democratic politician, so why wouldn't you sign on? So we've reached out to a couple of congressional people. One of you suggested, hey, we should reach out to Representative Tim Burchett. He's very right wing. He was on Tucker Carlson's show the other day. 2/3 of the time, I think he says things that are crazy and I don't agree with. And 1/3 of the time, I'm surprised that I agree with him, okay? Now, that he's not a regular person, he's a politician. That's why it's a little bit different. That's why it's inverted, right? With a regular Republican voter, I'll probably agree 2/3 of the time. Oh, and so will any Democrat if they ever get past like the culture wars and the mutual hatred, etc. So anyway, so one of you came up with the idea, well, let's reach out to him. So let's do it. So I'm gonna try something different on today's show. So there's Representative Tim Burchett's information. That's his phone number, congressional office number. We're not doxing him, that's actually his political office that you're calling, and you, as a citizen, you should. His on Insta, he's Rep Tim Burchett with 2 T's. On X, he's at Tim Burchett with 2 T's, of course. And we're asking him to co-sponsor HR 3493. This should be a no-brainer for him. It's Trump's executive order, word for word. Where's the question? Where's the question? So you're not being impolite, you're being very polite. You're assuming that he's gonna join you. You're making him aware of the bill and that you care about it. If you're a Republican, even better, but it's okay if you're independent or Democrat. You could also reach out as long as you're polite, because we do everything in a way that is peaceful and nonviolent, but we are persistent. We are going to be maniacally persistent. No, we want you to serve us. We want you to, so do you want higher drug prices or don't you? Okay, that's what we're asking en masse, but when we ask individually, we're gonna ask politely to try to get the folks who are honest actors to join in the beginning and start to try to create some momentum. So, but the thing that I wanna do differently today is, if we could all, like if someone comes up with an X post and an Instagram post about Tim Burchett reaching out to him, do it now, do it now. And Cara is in the chat, she's our community director. She will find it if you post it, and we'll put it on air. And then we'll have everyone like it and share it. Now, why are we asking you to do it? Why don't we just do it? We could have done it before the show. Because I don't want you to repost my stuff or Young Turks stuff. I mean, that's great, God bless, I'm not against it, right? But this isn't about us. I want to crowdsource this thing. So one of you do it, and all of us will try to the best of our ability, push together, and then you'll get the likes and the shares, etc., on your account. I want all of you guys to do it as much as possible. You don't have to stop at Tim Burchett. And if it turns out you did another politician on another day, tomorrow, later tonight, etc., and that got a little bit, you did it in a clever way, you did it in a smart way, you did it in a way that worked, right? Then send it to us, and then we'll try to all again push together so that they notice. For example, Representative Mark Pocan, he's a good guy, Democrat, likely to like this idea, at least I think, right? And we know for a fact that over 400 of you already reached out to him, and obviously that got his attention. And so that's great, that's exactly what we want to do. So I also want to do it on the Gaza issue, but first, I want you guys, before I get to the Gaza one, no, actually, let me do the Gaza one too, and then I'll tell you where you can coordinate all of this stuff. Because I want you to work on it right now so that we can see if we can get it up on the air and push together. And I know I'm asking a lot of you guys, and there's a lot of people out there, so I'm hoping 1 or 3 or 18 of you can do some version of this. So on the Kids of Gaza, we had the idea of putting up the pictures, the bios, and so can we do, and I mentioned, well, we already know about Hind Rajab, right? So that's the 6-year-old that was murdered by the IDF in her car. All of her relatives in the car were already killed by the IDF. They told the IDF, no, there's a 6-year-old alive, please go get her, she needs to be rescued, and or we're sending an ambulance to go get her. The IDF killed everybody in the ambulance and her, right? Because they're sick terrorists. Anyway, so Jack Callahan, who's in the working group for Operation Hope, which this came out of, and this is Operation Hope, just on a larger scale. Jack found a bio and a picture, etc. And as I'm saying this, Carl will start to put up those links, etc., from the past in the chat. And so you could see the bio, you could see the picture. Somebody make a post out of it. Make an Instagram post, an X post, TikTok, whatever you got, make a post out of it. Again, I don't want it to be us, I want it to be you guys. We'll take the first one that we think is good enough. And guys, don't get offended if we don't push yours. Hopefully there'll be, by the middle of this thing, there'll be hundreds or thousands of submissions. If 999 of you catch feelings because we picked one and not the other 999, this will never work. Just root for each other and support each other as we do this, okay? So look, all of this is bold, and so it might turn out by the end of this, which is in about 20 minutes, we might have no social media posts. Or we all push together and it gets 17 likes. So what? So what? We'll do it again and again and again. So most people wouldn't do it. They say, oh, that's embarrassing. Oh no. Then your clout will diminish or something. I don't give a goddamn about my clout. I just want to get something done. Okay, and I want to get it done with you guys, because if we're not working together, there's no chance we're going to win. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you about how you can coordinate on our website too. But before I do that, speaking of 20 minutes from now, I mean, this should unite the left and the right. We have a guy who's running against Nancy Pelosi, and it looks like he's got a fighter's chance. And it's not like he hasn't pulled off a political miracle like that before. So, and it is a very interesting story. And it appears, I think that Pelosi's are a little bit nervous about it. And it's starting to show up in the press. Imagine if one of us defeated Nancy Pelosi. Again, I don't know what could unite progressives who are super frustrated with Pelosi, who's totally corporate and has killed all of Democratic policies while pretending to fight for them. She's buried them in her basement. And certainly my guess is Republicans and right wing would also be quite happy if Nancy Pelosi wasn't in office anymore. So we're gonna talk to him, like I said, in about 20 minutes. Make sure you're checking out that interview. Okay, so guys, you can coordinate in 2 different ways. One is tyt.com/ideas. So that's where we set up a little bit of a forum, a chat group, etc. Now, why are we doing that? Because if you just send it in your ideas to us, by the way, hold on, let me just pause there for a second. So one of the things we're doing is we're taking some of the clear ideas, and especially if they've gotten likes, we're looking at, to elevate the ones that are that more people gravitate to, we're putting them at the top. That's why in that screen, you're seeing some of those bullet points. You see with the blue, there you go, exactly, and white. Those are the ideas from the chat down below that got filtered up. So participate, hopefully your idea will be filtered up, and other people can then chime in. And hopefully we can craft ideas and make them better and better as we go, right? And we've already received a ton of ideas. Again, don't catch feelings if we're not doing yours. I love you, keep participating, okay? And so now, on the other hand, some of you are talking about doing exactly what I asked you, which is crowdsourcing, in this case, a website for kidsofgaza.com, where we put up the pictures of the dead children. So people, if you're gonna fund Israel, and you're gonna keep sending them billions and billions of our money, at least have the decency to look at the kids that they've killed and go, I'm okay, I'm good with it. Oh, 20,000 dead children? Oh, he was playing soccer and that's when Israel dropped a bomb and blew his head off. Oh yeah, I'm good with it. Send more of my money. Here, I'll go do an extra shift, right? But at least look at them. So that's what we're trying to get the country to do, and especially our politicians and our media. So the voters are good people. The Republicans have already flipped on Israel, and Democrats are at 92-8. Isn't it amazing? I mean, that's why we call this a revolution. So 92% of Democratic voters say that Israel's wrong on Gaza. And 92% of their politicians say the exact opposite. And they're like, oh, 9 out of 10 Democratic voters want us to care about the Palestinians. Not only do we not care about the Palestinians, we don't care about our voters. We don't care about over 90% of our voters. You can go to hell, because I'm getting money from AIPAC. I'm getting money from the Israeli lobby. So screw my voters is what almost all the Democrats are saying. 9 out of 10, not all of them. Bernie and others are, Ro Khanna, etc. are great. But 90% of Democrats are totally corrupt, and they work for Israel. They don't work for America. And by the way, if you're a Republican, don't get smug on me. Almost 100% of your politicians, no, 95%. Now because of Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tom Massey. And we always give credit where it's due. I don't care if it's Tom Massey's a Republican. If he's doing the right thing, I'm gonna give him all the credit in the world, okay? And I don't care if you're, and if you catch feelings, oh, well, I like a Republican politician, I like a Democratic politician. I heard on MSNBC, I heard on Fox News that they're so great. I love the way they do the culture wars. All right, if you're gonna catch feelings when I call them corrupt and prove that they're corrupt, then this is not gonna be for you, right? This is for people who realize that the media and the politicians have been lying to you the whole time, okay? If you're still a knucklehead that's super naive, and you're like, well, I don't know, Rachel Maddow and Sean Hannity told me that the politicians are super honest on my side, and the real problem is the other side. Oh, really? Then why aren't the politicians on the Republican side negotiating drug prices for you? Why aren't they banning private equity from buying up our homes? They know that's what's driving up our housing prices. Why aren't any of them for higher minimum wage? And don't tell me Democrats are for higher minimum wage. Joe Biden took it out of the first bill. He's totally, utterly corrupt, totally worked for the donor class, or as Nina Turner calls them, the owner donors. Okay, so I'm gonna read some of your comments in a second. Oh, great. So YouTube is having site-wide issues. So yeah, it happens, brothers. So today, it's not usually it's our issue, right? Usually we have technical problems, but in this case, mighty YouTube's having YouTube problems. That's okay, we have comments of folks who have already written in, and I wanna share those with you guys. Embedded Dude writes in, I already told Adam Schiff personally that I'll never vote for him as long as he takes AIPAC money. Well, you should all say that to every politician. And of course, Adam Schiff takes AIPAC money. Adam Schiff bathes in AIPAC money. Adam Schiff wakes up in the morning kissing AIPAC's left cheek. He goes to bed at night kissing the right cheek. So I got no use for Adam Schiff. We have another pledge if you'd like to sign in. TYT.com/no-more. And what that is it's a pledge to never vote for a politician that takes money from the Israeli lobby. And so And again, you could vote in your own primaries. You don't have to vote for the other side, okay? So that's another fact that mainstream media keeps from you. Oh, primaries, they're so bad, they divide the party. The reality is, in a primary, you might actually get to pick someone who represents you. That's why mainstream media despises primaries. Shh, no, that's where democracy still lives a little bit. Everybody shut up, oh, it's bad for unity, bad. Oh, now you have two terrible choices. Ha ha, we got you. Now you got to make the lesser of two evils choices, both sides. They should have voted in the primary, but they didn't because we tricked them. Yeah, we're on to you. All right, Cicero wrote in, hey, regarding the suggestion to create flyers with a QR code, I went ahead and wrote this up. Please feel free to use it. America's political class are very devoted to Israel. We've given, and that current, he put in a blank, but you could fill it in, have given $310 billion to fund Israel's military. We've also spent $8 trillion on our own military since 2001, which we have mainly used to fight wars on behalf of Israel. So look, that's his version. You could write your own version. 8 trillion is the global war on terror. We've spent more on our military than that. That's just all the money we wasted fighting the war on terror. Okay, so and is it all on behalf of Israel? No, it's not all on behalf of Israel. Is some of it on behalf of Israel? Yeah, of course. Oh, look, there's a dirty Muslim terrorist. I want his land. I mean, I'm so worried about that he's going to attack Israel. I mean, America. America, go attack him. America, go attack him. Go attack him. Go attack him. So does that happen? Yes, it happens. Does it happen every time? No. The world is complicated, and there's a lot of different reasons. In Iraq, did the oil companies and defense contractors make a killing, literally? Yes. Did they push for a war? Yes. Did you see that in mainstream media? No, because all the mainstream media lied to you and pretended nothing to do with money, nothing to do with the donors. No, we're worried about their weapons of mass destruction. Wink. We're worried that they attacked us on it, but all the reporters knew they didn't attack us on 9/11. In fact, they all knew that Saddam Hussein had hated Al-Qaeda and killed Al-Qaeda, but they lied to you. They all lied to you. They always lied to you. So I'm sick of them. I can't stand them. All right, guys, this is all collaborative. So sometimes you'll see a message you don't love, then you don't have to push that one. And you want to change the words, change the words. Every part of this is optional, okay? So now we're gonna go to, more from Cicero. Americans can't afford rent or health insurance and live paycheck to paycheck. Our cities are overrun by the homeless. Again, I wouldn't phrase it that way, but I get it. And our government is already now X in debt. We're up to 37 trillion, but Trump just added 4 trillion more, but that's over a period of time. Anyway, more than our GDP, yet we continue to bear Israel's burden in the name of fighting terrorism, even as they've indiscriminately bombed a crowded urban population in Gaza, put aid sites in active combat zones during a famine, and even shot children in the head. All of that is true. There were a number of children living in Gaza at the beginning of Israel's campaign, and we've heard many of their stories. Enter the link below or scan the QR code to learn their fate, and then you have the QR code for kidsofgaza.com. That's a beginning, that's a beginning. So again, let's craft all these, let's mold these, let's get the QR codes, let's begin. If you're gonna crowdsource the website, I think I forgot to finish that thought. So this is really important, guys. A bunch of you volunteered and have already even started crowdsourcing the website for kidsofgaza.com. But we gotta work with you guys because we have kidsofgaza.com. So if you're one of the people who are crowdsourcing that, or setting that up in any way, make sure you're emailing hope@tyt.com, hope@tyt.com, so that we can coordinate with you guys and we can put the things you're building on that actual URL, okay? So that's where you're gonna need the coordination. All right, let's go to Maritza. No, Raven Moon first, second idea. For the revolution, help Army people get paid. I saw the saddest thing today. Army people in line at food banks to get food. Johnson has the power to pass this law now and refuses. Of course he does. Mike Johnson is 100% owned by the donors. He's never gonna help you, never. All he's ever gonna do is help his donors. Same is true of Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrats in the House. So that's why Charlemagne calls him AIPAC Shakur, because Hakeem Jeffries works for AIPAC. He's got nearly $2 million from him. And we say, hey, he got $2 million. So normally a normal human being, especially a politician version of a human being, will care a lot about $2 million and will probably serve the person who gave him $2 million. The media goes, not only is that not true, because he's an angel and all these politicians are angels, so they're not affected by the millions of dollars. But on top of that, you're a hateful bigot for pointing out that fact. It is a fact, but you're not allowed to say, shut up, you anti-Semite. That's a trope, okay? That's what our media says, to hide Israel's influence on our politicians, but also to hide big pharma, big oil, instead of all of their influence. Our media, instead of exposing it, hides it. Don't look. Why are we doing drill baby drill, all the drilling? Okay, you like drilling? You think we're not keeping the oil. I don't want to get into a debate on that issue, but guys, we forget that debate. This one we could all agree on. Why are we giving them $35 billion in subsidies? That's 10 times what Israel gets. Why does ExxonMobil, one of the most profitable companies in the history of the world, need you to work an extra shift so their son of a bitch executives can get paid more? Why? Go ahead, mainstream media. Find me one anchor that can justify the $35 billion in oil subsidies. Okay, then why don't you ever talk about it? Because you want to cover up for the corrupt donors. They are not doing news. They are doing propaganda to try to blind you to the reality that almost all of our politicians are deeply corrupt. Let's go, let's do a peaceful revolution. Let's do a democratic revolution. All right. So in that case, look, I love the idea of helping veterans and seeing them in the streets and not get cared for breaks my heart. Oh, go fight all these stupid wars for all the stupid donors, and then when you come here, we'll betray you. Oh, well, we ran out of money. We gave it all to ExxonMobil. We gave it to Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson. Sorry, we ran out. Oh, hey, look, just when we got to the American people, we ran out of money, okay? So, all right, Maritza writes in with a third idea. Love what you guys are doing with Operation Hope, and I want to be involved. You guys are charismatic, eloquent, animated, and I really believe you can compel Americans to act and make change. I'm tired of watching videos and just getting angry. I want to do something, and I'm sure others do too. Thank you for leading this. Thank you so much for writing that in, but she continues. I have a suggestion. While on video, use the screen behind you to post a website and email details. Consider it a classroom where notes are on the screen. Remember that people have a short memory. They're multitasking, et cetera, et cetera. Make it easy for us to carry out things. I've previously seen Fox News do this really well. Lots of notes on screen and visuals to create an emotional response for their viewers. Okay, before I get to our next suggestion, look guys, we put up the graphics for you guys every once in a while. I'll do more and more as we go along. I used to do the first hour of the show alone. And when I did that, I would have a lot of graphs and explain how the money corrupts and how what you can do to make a difference. And guys, remember, look, you might not like, if you're on the right or you're independent, maybe you don't like the squad. That's AOC and the rest of them, right? And these days, I think they do way too much culture war, so I got my issues with them too, okay? But we already pulled off one miracle. This is the show where Just Democrats was launched. I'm one of the co-founders. I named it. And we put 11 people in Congress when everybody thought there'd be 0. So if you think we can't get something done here, well, that's just factually and empirically incorrect. And is it us? No, it's always you guys. If you didn't give the money and you didn't volunteer, none of that would have happened. So in that particular case, and not the money to us, but to those candidates. So candidates are for a different day though. Let's keep going with Maritza's suggestions. Another suggestion, you really need a presence on Reddit. Please post your videos and consider having a separate subreddit there. Get interns to help with all the minutia and tech. Reddit users will see the content and will share it, comment on it, and hopefully will spread the message, maybe even outside the Reddit world. Okay, so look, on Reddit, it's a funny story from I think over a decade ago, we got banned there. We get banned everywhere. And we just keep popping back up. We're back. To be fair, I think back then we were doing promotional stuff, so they're probably right to ban us. But that might have been like 15 years ago. It was a long time ago, right? Most honest show in America. But guys, we're probably back. We could probably get back on there. But again, I want you to do it. I want to give you the credit. I want to unleash your creativity, your vision, et cetera. So if you're on Reddit, please do a Reddit, do a subreddit, do whatever they do on Reddit, okay? And okay, now a bigger idea for all of us together, okay? So guys, if you like a portion of this, or you like some other video you saw or another host that you saw on another show, having nothing to do with TYT, but it's about something that unites us. It's about something that exposes the corruption, the money in politics, or drug prices, or kids of Gaza. Make a clip out of it, put it on social media, put it on Reddit, and then tell us about it. And again, on the next show, we'll try to push together, right? And see if we can get your stuff to take off. Okay, more ACES kind of dragon rights in. What we need to do is start taking all the money that we're giving overseas and all the money that we're wasting in the Pentagon and give it back to the people. There should be universal income for every citizen. It's gotten too expensive. We can't afford it anymore. We need to take our money back. Look, brother, I can't agree more with taking our money back. They waste all of our money. I mean, look, again, I don't want to get into divisions, but Doge, what happened? I thought you were going to cut the Pentagon by $100 billion. Instead, you added $150 billion. Added $150 billion to the most bloated department in the whole country. You're getting rid of the Department of Education. I'm not going to debate that. That's for when I do the show. When I do the show, I'll give you my political opinions, etc., ideological opinions. But you're going to get rid of the Department of Education to save money, and then you're going to take all that money times 10 and then give it to the Pentagon on top of already the gigantic budget they have. Nah, it's just pork barrel, man. They're just robbing. This is the great American robbery. They're robbing us blind over and over again. Don't stand for it. All right, so guys, I'm about to run out of time. Let me see if I can squeeze in one last one. Corey Schiffauer writes in, Jake, my name is Corey. My YouTube name is Project for Progress. I came on one of the Operation Hope episodes a while back, and I mentioned wanting to have a visible tracker that correlates voting records with the campaign contributions. You told me it was a dream of yours to make a database like that. I've looked into it and started trying to make one. It's possible through AI agents such as Replit, but the problem is in addition to the monthly subscription, it keeps stacking up charges for how long the agent works and how difficult the task is based on what I could find. It would probably cost a couple of $1,000s to be able to initiate the full database. It did give me a sample with a little bit I paid, and it looked awesome. Wondering if you could read this and see if anybody else knows a better or cheaper way to do this. Maybe we could reach out to local areas where congressmen are from and put on a billboard how much money a congressman has taken from a certain lobby, for example. Not sure how feasible any of this is, but I wanted to try to help. I'm willing to put money into this. I just don't think I can do it alone. You're the voice of the country. Thank you for starting this. We will win. So I don't know about me being the voice, but I love you. I appreciate that you're looking into it and you're working, and I agree, we will win. So look, guys, do I know how to create a website that tracks all the politicians, the money that they take from their donors? And what I would love as a second part of that website is then how do they vote? And what you're gonna see is it's gonna match nearly 100%. They take money from a lobby, they vote with that lobby. If we could do that whole database, people are gonna look at it and be like, holy cow, they vote with their donors 98% of the time. And the gigantic liars on television tell me that the money doesn't influence them. Come on. So one of these days I'm gonna show up here. We're super early days, right? We just got started. This is, like I said, day 5 or 6, whatever we're on. The video, the title will tell you, and then you all laugh because I got the wrong date. Anyway, but one day I'm gonna come on air and I'm gonna say, you know how I asked you guys to do this website or that website or the Instagram or the this or that? And here it is. It turns out Sally in Missouri, who's been working this whole time and created this thing. Oh my God, it's amazing, right? We hope. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep hope alive, okay? This is Operation Hope, and we're gonna try to bring our democracy back. All right, next is an interview, stay right here. 2 things actually. One is Operation Hope, the original working group there is on right now. You can go to tyt.com/hope and get the link there. Join them, because they're gonna try, if you're trying to work on these projects, they're gonna try to help you and begin to organize to take specific actions. So go join that group if you can, tyt.com/hope. Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern they meet, and I join them once a month. And then, but for everyone else, stay here. We have another public episode, this time it's an interview with the person who has a real shot at beating Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco. So let's do that when we return. All right, today we're going to talk to a giant killer. Saikat Chakrabarti is co-founder of the Just Democrats. He was campaign manager for AOC when she beat Joe Crowley in one of the most stunning political upsets in American history. He also was her chief of staff after that. And he is now running against Nancy Pelosi. And there are already rumors that Nancy Pelosi might step out of the race. Can Saikat go 2 for 2? He joins us now. How you doing, brother?
Hey, Cenk, it's really good to see you.
Good to see you, brother. So I've been touting you as the Zoran Mamdani of the West Coast, okay? All right, tell us about the race, because the other day you did this event, and I mean, it's legendary Nancy Pelosi. You're supposed to have no chance, but then all of a sudden 500 people showed up to your, I think it was your opening event. So what happened? Tell me about it.
It's better than that, Cenk. We did our office opening party a few months ago, and we were expecting about 200 people to show up, and 500 people showed up. So many people showed up that we actually had to run the event twice because we didn't have space for all those people in our office. So we had half the people wait outside and come through the second half of the event. And then we did another event last week. We did our first campaign rally. And so this time we upgraded the space. We got a bigger space in the Mission, capacity of 650 people there. And yet again, we maxed it out. About 800 people showed up to our first rally, and we're still about a year out from the election. And the thing is, I'd love to say it's all because I'm such an amazing candidate, but that's really not it, Cenk. It's that this time, the moment is so, people are so ready for change right now. Like, because we ran all these races in 2018. You remember that cycle, Cenk? Yeah. And there was an appetite for change, right? People were really frustrated with the Democratic Party. People were looking for what comes next. And that's what allowed someone like AOC to win. She was the right candidate in the right moment with the right message. The appetite for change that I'm seeing right now completely dwarfs what I saw in 2018. We would have never seen a rally with 800 people like that for a congressional race almost a year out from the election. And the polling is bearing out what we think it to be true. We basically know in this race, if we get our message out in front of as many voters as possible, we're gonna win. That's what the polling showed. We win by 6 if all we do is just get our message out in front of people. And it's because everything I'm running on is overwhelmingly popular, not just in San Francisco, but across the country.
Yeah, so there's a giant difference between now and 2018 in my estimation. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with what we did in the past, so Saikat and I were the 2 out of the 4 co-founders of Just Democrats. And so we did media here. Ro Khanna came on and joined here. We raised $2.5 million from the Young Turks audience for the candidates. Super proud of that work. But Saikat ran the organization more than anyone else. And then he made the huge bet on AOC, and it was really bold, and it totally paid off. And so he was absolutely critical. Now I tell you that not because, hey, get excited because he's an amazing progressive and et cetera. That's also true, but he's done this before. So it's what the media often tells you is, oh, it's impossible. Oh my God, don't try, because no, you have to accept 285-year-old politicians. You have to accept that they always work for the donors. You have to accept this, and this, right? Pelosi at this point is 84. I don't know why in the world she'd run again. So, okay, now that leads me to what's different now. Saikat, if you had run against Nancy Pelosi or anyone had back in 2018, they would have had their face ripped off by mainstream media. They would have been like, oh my God, how dare you, you're dividing the party, and she's the master legislator, you're a heretic. And they would have driven you out with pitchforks. But I don't get this, I think mainstream media is so badly hurt that they can't bully people like they used to. That's my sense of it, but you're in the race, what do you think?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing this time. And it's not just mainstream media, it's even who's willing to talk to me. Because I remember when we ran AOC's race, nobody would talk to us. Not even progressive groups would talk to us. But I think what people are realizing, and this is doubly true for mainstream media, because my view of it as mainstream media, they're simple folk. They want to just get views, they want to make money like everybody else, right? They don't want to miss the biggest story that happens in politics this time around. That's what happened in AOC's race. I still remember AOC's race was at the same time as Mitt Romney's Senate race. So all the media people were over in Utah, and people were literally booking flights next morning, come back and cover what just happened. So back in 2018, we were saying, look, people are really ready for change. What the mainstream establishment Democrats are doing, it's not working. They just wrote that off as, it's just another bunch of progressives just talking nonsense. But this time they're taking it seriously. And the other reason they're taking it seriously is because Donald Trump just got elected again, right? The thing that should have been impossible in 2016 and should have been impossible again in 2024 just happened again. So even the mainstream media is realizing there's something deeply broken in the Democratic Party and something needs to change and there has to be some new future. So they're looking at races like mine and a whole bunch of races all around the country as maybe, the canary in the coal mine, is looking at these might be the races that define what the future actually is.
Yeah, so it is massive movement in the media like I've never seen. And the Democratic leadership is also so badly hurt. Their polling is disastrous. So they used to bully people, but now they don't have the power to bully people. So now people are getting to make up their own minds, and it's a beautiful day in America. Democracy's breaking out. So along those lines, so make the case against Nancy Pelosi. Because if Jake Tapper or Joy Reid or whoever was here, they tell you, oh my God, she's the greatest legislator in American history. How dare you, right? So, okay, why are you running against Nancy Pelosi then?
I could give you a laundry list of policies where I'm different, right? But all of it really boils down to a completely different approach to how we do politics. Nancy Pelosi is part of an old guard that believes we just need to reform the existing system a little bit. We can just continue ignoring the huge issues that have been piling up for decades when it comes to things like the skyrocketing costs of healthcare, of housing, of childcare, of education. And what I'm saying is, no, we actually have to solve those problems at a structural level. It won't be enough to just reform the ACA a little bit. We need Medicare for all. It won't be enough to just do some childcare subsidies. We need universal childcare. We have to tackle this fundamental problem of people's wages being stagnant for decades while the cost of the essentials have just been skyrocketing. That is why we have Donald Trump in the White House. I think that's why people voted for Barack Obama in 2008. People have been voting for anybody that's pitching bold, sweeping change any chance they get, and they're open to what the change looks like, but they just know the status quo is not cutting it. So at the end of the day, Nancy Pelosi is a candidate that's fighting to keep an old and I believe broken status quo intact. And I'm pitching the actual vision and the ideas that we need to solve these problems, to really solve these problems. I think it's a very pragmatic approach.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny and ironic because I actually am tougher on Pelosi than you are. I think she didn't want to do any of those things. I think that her donors paid her to not do any of the Democratic policies. Or she's a terrible politician, terrible legislator, because she didn't get even $15 minimum wage passed. It was supposed to be bare minimum, super easy, right? Public option, bare minimum, super easy. Paid family leave, it's at 84%, super easy. Well, if you're a master's legislator, then you get a bill passed that's at 84% popularity. I don't think she wanted any of those bills passed. But, Saikat, people are gonna naturally ask, we've now heard a lot of folks come in here, Fetterman, let alone so many others. Sinema originally was pretending to be a progressive. And they all come in, and then as soon as they get to Washington, they betray us. So how do we know that we can trust you?
Well, you look at what I've done for the last 10 years, right? I worked on Bernie's campaign 2016. I started Justice Democrats with you. And I've been going against the establishment my entire time I've been in politics. I've got no friends in the establishment right now, right? And my goal right now, if we do win against Nancy Pelosi, like when we beat her, there's gonna be this huge national spotlight on this race, because that's gonna be a massive story. And I'm gonna say it right now, what I'm gonna do in that moment is call for people to primary Democrats all around the country, right? I think the time for the political revolution inside the party is right now, and it's totally possible. When we did Justice Democrats, I was looking at it as maybe we're gonna do something like a Tea Party for progressives inside the Democratic Party. And my lesson from that period is you can't push the establishment. You can't nudge them to do the right stuff. You have to replace the establishment. And that's what I'm calling on doing, and that's what I'm gonna do. That's the only reason I'm in the race.
Yeah, no, I love that, hashtag replace the establishment. So Saikat, what are your priorities? So if you get in office, look, one of our viewers reached out to you, or a couple did, and you signed on to the populist plank, and those are easy, right? Well, they're easy to say yes to, but somehow magically all those super popular policies have never passed Congress, right? But tell me what your priorities are.
So in 2026, right, we gotta be realistic. Trump's still gonna be president, so I'm not gonna be able to get Medicare for all passed. But what I do think we should do is make corruption front and center. This is the most corrupt president that I think I've seen in ever, in the history of the country perhaps. And it's an overwhelmingly popular issue across the political spectrum. Republicans wanna be anti-corruption, Democrats wanna be anti-corruption. I say we ban congressional stock trading and do a discharge petition on day one. That's what Ro Khanna's doing with the Epstein files right now with Tom Massey, right? It's a way to force a vote on it, is force the issue, make it a topic of conversation, put it at the forefront, and just define that whole election around corruption, getting rid of corruption, banning both people self-enriching inside Congress, Trump self-enriching in the White House, and getting rid of big money in politics. That's at the root of all evil.
Yeah, so no corporate PAC money?
Of course not.
No Israeli lobby money?
No any lobby money, but definitely no Israeli lobby money.
Yeah, and so you vote to, of course, release the Epstein files, whether it's a Republican or a Democratic president in charge?
Yeah, and they should all go to jail, whoever's on there.
Yep, that did the crimes. Should we cut funding to Israel?
Yes, absolutely. We should be. I mean, what Israel has done over the last 2 years, I've called it a genocide because it is a genocide. That's not just my opinion. That's what the UN has said at this point. We shouldn't be funding it. And this is another piece that doesn't get talked about. It's against our own laws to be funding it. There's a set of laws called Leahy laws, right? You're not supposed to be funding severe human rights violations across in foreign nations. So yes, we should be cutting funding to Israel. And more importantly, at this point, we need to be doing everything we can to make the ceasefire hold, which I'm very skeptical is going to, given the way things are already going. And I'm already hearing reports of the IDF shooting at Palestinians and killing some Palestinians. But we have to hold the ceasefire, and then we have to actually provide funding and make sure Palestinians are at the table in whatever peace process and rebuilding process we get afterwards. But I don't think we can't be giving Israel blank checks to be committing a genocide and continuing to expand into the West Bank.
Yeah, it's funny how honest candidates can be when they don't take PAC money.
Yeah.
Okay, gee, so hard to figure out the mystery of why our politicians are corrupt, especially if you're a national media reporter. Anyways, so now speaking of reporters, there's reporting out there that Is it Scott Wiener is in the race, and he's kind of a well-established politician in California, and the rumors that Christine Pelosi might enter the race. Now, wait a minute. If Pelosi's daughter's gonna enter the race, I'm pretty sure she's not gonna run against her mom. So are they already panicking? Is there a chance that Nancy Pelosi withdraws from this race?
There is a chance. Yeah, Scott Wiener and Christine Pelosi aren't in the race yet. They're both waiting to see if perhaps Nancy Pelosi steps down. But yeah, I think there's a decent chance Nancy Pelosi may step out of the race because since we started the race, we polled at the beginning of the race, and we polled just a couple months ago. We've already cut her lead in half. So we were down 25, now we're down 13. And then, like I said earlier, if all we do is just keep campaigning, we're gonna win. So I think Nancy Pelosi has a real decision to make of whether she wants to actually campaign, which she hasn't had to do ever, really. She was the chosen, establishment candidate when she first got elected. So, does she actually want to do this big campaign and try super hard to have to hold on to a seat, or will she step down? And I suspect she might step down.
So guys, look, my job is to follow politics with great detail. So if you don't know, right now, Saikat's supposed to be down by about 58 or so to Nancy Pelosi. That's how a normal election would go. The fact that we're, have a little under a year left to go, and he's already only down by 13. That's amazing to be only down by 13. That means that no wonder they're like, do we throw in her daughter? Do we throw in some other establishment dude? And what's hilarious is that if you take her down and she leaves the race, just like with Zoran Mamdani beating Andrew Cuomo, the media can't believe it. It just literally couldn't believe it. So what I guarantee you what they'll do, Saikat, is they'll say, oh yeah, no, it wasn't Saikat. No way. It's definitely not him. He doesn't want to fund Israel. It's definitely not him. Oh, now we can have a real race with Scott Wiener versus Christine Pelosi. So do you have plans for if that happens, how you deal with that?
The race I'm running doesn't change because at the end of the day, I'm the only person running in this race who's really talking about changing the entire Democratic Party. I'm the only one talking about doing these big structural changes to actually fix these big problems like healthcare, housing, childcare, education, our skyrocketing utility bills. I've worked on the policy details of this for the last 5 years, right? At my think tank, New Consensus. I've got the real plans for how to do it. But I just think what's necessary right now is a huge political revolution across the country. And anyone who's waiting their turn to jump in the race after Pelosi is clearly not gonna be the one to try to lead that.
Yeah, if you're waiting for permission from Nancy Pelosi to run against her, not against her, but to run in that race, you're obviously not the guy we need. You're not the person who's gonna go in and tackle things and cares about the issues, cares about the voters. You care about the Democratic establishment, and you're waiting like a good little boy or girl to get permission, and then you're gonna take the same PAC money and try to do the same thing that Pelosi did, which is honestly not much. All right, so Saikat, how can people help? How can they create this second miracle for you in terms of being able to take down one of the top Democratic leaders?
Well, look, the huge advantage we have in this race right now is people. We've been doing these canvases every weekend on Saturdays and Sundays. We're getting about 50 people to each one. And that's, for people who haven't worked on campaigns, it's mind-boggling. Usually when you do a canvas this far out from an election, you get 1 or 2 people to show up. And so if you are in San Francisco or the Bay Area, go to my website. It's saikat.us, SAIKAT.us, and sign up to volunteer. It's lots of fun, right? And we are absolutely going to win this race on people power. We have the capacity to talk to every single voter in San Francisco and get our message out there. And we know if we do that, we're gonna win. And if you're not in San Francisco or the Bay Area, then if you can donate, throw a few bucks our way. Every little bit helps. We're gonna use that for online advertising, TV advertising, everything we can to get the message out.
So saikat.us, easy way to remember his name, Saikat like Showtime, and Chakrabarti like, there's no party like a Chakrabarti.
Right, okay. There you go.
Okay, so Saikat, we gotta keep talking, and we want updates on this race, and here comes West Coast Zoran.
All right, okay.
Saikat, you're awesome, thank you, brother.
All right, take care.
All right, guys, now we're gonna do a bonus episode for the members. That's what we promised at the end of each of these episodes. I'll tell you a quick story about back in the day about Just Democrats. That story this one is not entirely pleasant, but it's important and interesting. So good time to become a member. If you're watching, hit the join button below or tyt.com/join, and I'll see the members in a sec.